You've found yourself at the junction where worlds meet. Politics.
Civility? How about honesty in this country, folks?
Entertainment.
I don't like entertainment.
And a whole bunch of other stuff.
It's about having a healthy body image. You have a very unhealthy body. You should have a horrible body image.
Not a big home improvement market in Detroit.
We are definitely going to get letters.
You're listening to Talk Radio's Strangest Animal.
You're a strange animal, that's what I know.
You're getting louder with Crowder.
But you're a strange animal, I got to follow. Oh, I'm in the spiritus.
That sound means it's the sound of the weekend. Glad to be with you. I am your host, Stephen Crowder. Producing with me in video studio, as always, is Jared, who is not gay. You can follow him on Twitter at NotGayJared. I fulfill my legal obligations and draw your own conclusions. We good?
We're good. Not gay and not dead.
Not
dead.
Not dead. The rumors are false. Now that I hear myself on mic, I can hear the sinus aids.
Sinus just kind of hanging in there.
It started last Thursday. Remember we had that one longer break, and I was going, "What is with?" I feel funny. And little known fact: one can contract sinus AIDS. Speaking of diseases, Fight for 15 is trending everywhere. By the way, great guests. We have Julie Borowski, formerly token libertarian chick on. We have SooperMexican of therightscoop.com, wonderful site. We have Ed Morrissey with his new book talking about that. He knows a lot about the politics, the micro-politics, how the delegates work, how the counties work. But we actually have, and by we, I mean NotGayJared, have an exclusive scoop this week. It's trending everywhere. Fight for 15. All the Bernie voters, these people, they want $15 minimum wage, specifically fast food workers.
Yes.
So let me lay the foundation, and Jared, as you speak, we can, I'll bring up these screenshots. It's entirely fake. People are talking about whether the idea is good or not. It's a scam, and well, Jared, do you want to start off with what we did, because we were going to send Jean-Guy Tremblay, noted Bernie fan.
Bernie fan. He was all about it.
To the Fight for 15
He was really
rallies.
excited to go too, which was kind of disheartening.
Yes. So, and I have this up. So, NotGayJared produces these things. And I said, NotGayJared, we need to set this up, find out where these Fight for 15 are going. And I have this up here on my screen where you can see. So, NotGayJared, what did you do?
So, we signed up for the email because we thought, hey, that's the best way to stay in contact.
Yep.
We thought, hey, we want to be involved. We want to be there, support the great cause. Let's find out where it's going to happen and when. It's for Jean-Guy, so we can inform him, so send him in.
And you signed up with emails.
With emails.
To make sure we were secure. No affiliation with Louder with Crowder, so it wouldn't be screened.
Flagged. Nope.
So we have the screen, and they were saying, this is where you sign up to be a part of the protest. So I have screenshot one here. Let me bring up another one. Another screenshot. Biggest ever global strikes and protests. Someone saying, help us grow the fight. Share now. These screenshots I have here. So these were all being sent directly to your inbox, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Lots of personal letters from McDonald's employees about doing it for their son. We're glad to have you along. Right. Doing the right thing. Let's pull together.
Well, here it says, today we are striking in over 300 cities. Share, stand strong, share this. Now, we have emails here too. They were supposed to tell you where these were taking place. And then eventually said, give us your phone number and we'll text you. Mm-hmm. So you and I were thinking this might be like a flash mob scenario, right?
Yeah, like you just gather everyone together.
Right.
Last minute, bomb the media.
Because you signed up for the email list. You gave them your phone number.
Building hype for weeks.
And I have the text right here saying, stay tuned, your message is on the way. Work with us, share this. Did they ever tell you where the protests were taking place?
Not once.
Not once.
And I couldn't find out.
No. I called half a dozen McDonald's specifically because they were targeting McDonald's and fast food places. Not one employee, not a single employee nor manager had heard of it.
This happened to me last time this happened. I went to a couple of fast food places in person.
Right.
They hadn't even heard of it. They didn't even know what I was talking about.
No. And if you look at the picture, so they trend, it's all out to SEIU members, pictures of them. They went at 6:45 a.m. and said, brothers and sisters, we'll be back later today, later tonight. What? Why are you protesting at 6:45 a.m.? Photos, and then they're gone. And they're back later. But I mean, we unless we're missing something, we signed up for the email lists, we made the phone calls. NotGayJared tried proactively to find out where these protests are, and no answer.
I checked all over Michigan, all over Detroit, Chicago.
You
know what, something I found funny. Their big claim is 300 cities they've gotten on board with this, right? Mm-hmm. 300 cities. And the text to me said, maybe this is just, I'm reading too much into it, but join the thousands.
Yes.
Thousands. So do the math. Let's be really aggressive. Let's say 10,000 people, which if there was 10,000 people, they probably would have said tens of thousands of people, right?
Right.
Do the math. 300 cities, 10,000 people at the most. That's 33 people per city. Right. That's not much of a movement.
Well, and the thing is, they're counting you.
They're counting me.
This is what's so dishonest. They're counting
I wasn't there.
NotGayJared's email as one of the millions or tens of thousands.
Representing whatever city I signed up
standing
from.
strong. So they tell you, this is important for you to know. Everyone out there, you want to talk about AstroTurf? These are paid union protesters, most of whom do not work at these fast food establishments. And they are claiming among their ranks, we are supported by thousands. No, they're paying protesters, professional protesters, to show up. Unions do this. And they are including someone like NotGayJared, who they deliberately misled into signing up that he could be a part of their protest. And it was a shutout. They do not want anyone to be a part of this. Now, contrast this with the Tea Party, with the March on Washington that happened with Glenn Beck at one point, or the same thing with Jon Stewart when he did the counter protest in Washington, or even Occupy Wall Street, right? If you're creating a genuine protest, the whole goal is to get as many people as possible to be a part of a movement. And they did the exact opposite of this. And I don't know if anyone else has done this. I don't know why no one is talking about this. We have all of the emails. We have all of the texts. If anyone wants to question us on it, we can prove it. And remember, we planned our week around this to send Junkie out there.
We did.
We've been pulling 16-hour days and a big video coming out. By the way, when people ask, why are you always wearing the Schoolhouse Rock shirt? Foreshadowing. Dummies. And we planned our week around this, and nowhere were we able to get this information.
No.
And the only pictures you see are SEIU members and union members who, of course, do not work at McDonald's.
I couldn't even prove it, but there's one email there you'll see. It has like all the different cities sharing their photos. And I couldn't prove it, but I would bet you can find a lot of those photos already online from past rallies. I couldn't prove it because I didn't have enough time today.
Right.
But it would be an interesting venture in journalism there.
Well, here's the crazy thing. I'm not a journalist. This is an entertainment-based program. Right?
We just wanted to screw with people.
And then every now and then we stumble across these. And we realize nobody else is doing the work.
Nobody.
CNN's not doing the work. Fox News isn't doing the work. None of these other news sources are doing work.
Help us.
Think about it. They don't want to create any. They don't want to get to the bottom of this. This is really basic stuff. This is an entirely fraudulent movement. It's a giant scam.
I guess they think that if they could just create enough hype in the social media sphere, create enough hype on Twitter, eventually it'll come to fruition to exist in reality. I don't know. If they just keep telling people this is a big movement, lots of things are happening, people are excited, people are pumped, people are marching the streets. Eventually, I don't know. But why wouldn't they want me to show up to something? That's why
they don't. Well, they don't want you to show up because they want to control it. They want to put on a front, and they know that many workers don't really want to join their union ranks. A lot of workers understand automation. A lot of workers see what's happened in places like California.
And a lot of them know if they didn't show up this morning, they'd be fired.
Well, yeah, but that's what the unions are going to say. Well, see, that shouldn't happen. You should never be fired
for protesting and leaving your job.
What about the fact that you cannot get correctly at KFC white meat and dark meat? It's never happened.
No. Original extra crispy.
They never get it right.
You can visually see the difference.
They can never get it right.
Can you imagine these kind of people like ending up in the military protesting like, oh, we didn't get our rations today just right. We're striking tomorrow. Right. The whole world would go to hell.
Well, you know what's so funny? Two people on Twitter were talking about this. They're going, you know what? You could easily pay for this if you just gave the CEO pay to the employees. Like, they just think that the CEO...
Credit card, you got it.
Just swipe a card, and they don't understand the second biggest number on any expenditure list for a business is employee costs.
Yeah.
They say, McDonald's worth $61 billion. Okay, how many people do they employ? And this is what's so crazy. You just tell someone they deserve something, you stir them up with a hashtag, and they don't even pay attention to the lie.
But remember, if you just raise the price of the Big Mac by 15.5 cents, you could pay for it all. It's a no-brainer.
A Big Mac isn't worth 15.5 cents to begin with.
It's such bad math on their part, and whatever the numbers they're throwing out there.
Well, 15. Why not make it 19? Why not make it 25?
Why not?
At that point, you just pick a number and say, we had people tweeting us. This is a good example. Tweeting us saying, well, you know what? You try and live on that kind of a wage. We can't even eat. Okay. On days that I don't eat out. Now, listen, we do pretty well. I'm not going to lie about that. We've been pretty blessed. We've had some hardships. Neither of us are in a food line. And I'm grateful, and I'm not going to lie about it. You know what? I've been able to hire Jared. I've been able to hire brilliant people like Courtney and Casey, and hopefully more, and we want to grow, and we don't do any unpaid interns. But yeah, we're not struggling. I understand that people have it far worse off than we do right now, and I'm grateful. But you know what? If I'm not eating out, and I do eat out quite a bit, if I'm not, it's under $8 a day. I've done the math. People say, poor people don't have access to healthy food. Milk, eggs, fruit, veggies, meat. All of the latter of which you can buy on sale. You can eat like a professional athlete.
This is where you insert your chink. It's not that complicated.
What? My chink?
Chink.
Oh,
chink.
Jank.
Jank.
Jank from Young Turks.
Young Turks. It's
Folks, people, it's not that complicated, okay? I'd like to reason my argument, but instead I'll just say, come on. Mainstream media, what? That's a perfect Young Turks impression. If you question it, I'm going to have you jailed like Bill Nye wants to do with actual scientists. We'll talk about that afterward. I want to talk more about this fight for 15 and this populist bullcrap and this idea that the poor have it so horrible in the United States. I was raised in Quebec. The poor have it worse. Stay tuned.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing.
Fight for 15! Fight for 15! Fight for 15! Fight for 15! This is so great that we're all joined together and we're fighting for the workers' rights.
Yeah, man, that's cool. I want to be paid more, too.
Yeah, the minimum wage is bullshit. We deserve at least 15 an hour.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what. I could really use like 19 an hour.
Yeah. 19 is better than 15. We print out all these flyers with 15 on it. But that's bullshit! We need 19! Yeah! Fight for 19! Fight for 19! Fight for 19 and new posters!
Glad to be back, and we were going to move on. So Bill Nye wants to jail. Bill Nye, a non-scientist, noted non-scientist.
But he taught me how to make some excellent rock candy.
Really?
Yeah, that was a...
Taught you to make crystal meth?
Well, that's what we called it.
That's
rock candy.
That's what happened.
But-
NotGayJared watched Bill Nye one day, and his mom said, "What's going on?" "I smoke rocks." You sound like Dave Chappelle for some reason.
That's how it happened.
And she said, "What's wrong with you?" And he said, "Bitch, Bill Nye." All right. So we were talking about the fight for 15 before this. So we were talking about. Let's talk about this, okay? Food. We've done this math a lot. By the way, NotGayJared was very, very nice and gave this money to a homeless man when we were downtown, and Coach Mark Ripito was visiting. And as we're walking up, because I'm hobbled, Jared is giving him. Did we tell the story on air? I don't think we did. You always forget. There's so much that happens in a week.
Yep.
There's an argument to go daily with something like this, but we're downtown, so we're pulling up, and we just see Jared's little dainty hand coming out with a cup and some change.
Hey, just set the record straight. My hand is way bigger than yours.
Your hand's not bigger than mine.
Oh, yeah.
Proportionally, yes, but it's not
Fingers.
bigger. What, you mean length?
Length.
All right. Does not correlate with grip strength. Well, you're not left-handed.
I'm not.
Okay, so the right hand. But the point is, we see a hand going out with change. And we're walking up. I just hear Mark. He's going, "Oh, no." He knows what's going to happen. The guy takes the money from Jared. "Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Captain. God bless you, Captain.
Captain.
Captain." And we're walking up. And as we're walking up and Jared is passing him money out of the window. So we're trying to get in the car. He stops us to shake us down. He's just gotten money from you. He knows we're in the same car. Substantial amount of change. It looked like a full cup. And
he turns to us, hey, Captain, do you have any? And I said, listen, I don't. He's the one who would have any change. It was in the console. Oh, yeah, but you can't find anything? You can't spare anything?
And I didn't tell you give away your change at the console, by the way.
Well, I figured it out afterward. By the way, it's been taken from your pay, so it all works out in the end. That's why you don't fight for 15. And he turns to Mark, and before he can even get to speaking with Coach Mark, he looks at him, and he just says, go away. He says it with that southern whiskey. Cool Whip.
The kind of rattled the whole car a little bit because go away.
And the guy just stopped and left. But my point is, and people have averaged what folks make.
And we've
panhandling.
seen him a couple times since then.
Yes, we've seen him many times since then. People panhandling often make more than minimum wage. People don't know that. For a lot of people, it's a scam. Doesn't mean you shouldn't help people who are down in their luck, but that's just reality. Okay. If you're making, let's say minimum wage, what's minimum? About $7 an hour?
Yeah, $7.40 maybe.
The point is, you can live off of that very, very easily. It comes down to choice. We were talking about this because you were eating some kind of sweet and sour Skittles.
Yeah, it was just clever. It was sweet and sour.
It was sweet and sour.
No,
you got your money's worth.
I went for both.
As far
Same
as
package.
Skittles go. You should still feel great, Shane, but you got your money's worth. Now, for that same price, you could have had 2 bananas, a pint of milk, and probably, I don't know, something else. I don't know, raspberries, a couple of eggs. Think about it. You get a gallon of milk, it's what, $3.99? Bananas are 99 cents. You get a whole handful of them. This idea that...
You say that, and now if I can go back... No, I'd probably get the Skittles again. Because I think there are banana-flavored Skittles, so we're good.
That's what I figured.
I'm resolved.
The point here, and this is this fight for 15, you have a bunch of people where it's always a problem that's not themselves. And conservatives have, there's this idea, compassionate conservatism. People want to ease their guilt. No, listen, it's okay. The problem is you. The problem is you. If you look at people who are successful, if you look at people who have made it beyond minimum wage jobs, in every case, some of them do it in weeks, some of them do it in months, some of them do it in years. They said, I'm going to do what it takes to get beyond this. Period. There is a common thread 100% of the time. Okay? And generally speaking, there's that same common thread for people who remain in those employment positions long term. Long term. Now, some people are down in their luck. Absolutely. Now, if they are in that position long term and they're not disabled or particularly maybe not highly functioning. By the way, we work with special needs. My wife and I work with special needs people. If you've seen the video on Friendship Club, a lot of these people have jobs and they pay them less than minimum wage. They're finding something for these people to do. These people just want to go out and do something. Mm-hmm. And some of them actually do work at McDonald's. We know a guy named Dominic with pretty severe Down syndrome.
I met him.
Yeah, smart. He's a guy who calls me grandpa because of the gray hairs and red sideburns. He's a smart-ass Down syndrome person.
Yeah, he is.
Very funny, but he's actually moved up. He's like a shift manager at McDonald's. Come on. I'm not trying to say that if Dominic with Down syndrome can do it, you have no excuse. But if Dominic with Down syndrome can become a manager at McDonald's, you probably have no excuse. That's the reality. And people get so mad, they talk about corporations. Let's just not lose sight of something, okay? People talk about socialism and a safety net. I was raised in Canada. Everything costs more, by the way. No one believed me when I said you can get beef, high-quality steak for $4.99 a pound in the States. Well, where can you get that? Watch them go on sale. That's what my parents do well. You know what my mom does? She finds steak when it's on sale, $4.99 a pound. She puts it in a freezer bag, doesn't even pay for the freezer machine sealant, whatever you call it.
Yeah, those are fancy things.
She sucks out the air with a straw. Steak dinner. You can get chicken for under $2 a pound, pork, eggs. It's very, very easy to do. You just have to make the decision. But people, so in the States anyways, a lot of people didn't believe me when I threw out these prices on Twitter. And I remember thinking, well, I guess that's true. In Canada, we ate these kinds of foods far less often. Let's not lose sight. People will walk into a Rite Aid, or people will walk into a McDonald's, or they'll walk into a local coffee roaster company or a local restaurant and go, yeah, look at Coca-Cola. These billionaires, corporate billionaires rigging the system. This is capitalism. And they ignore on that same street the dozens or hundreds of 100,000-aires or low-level millionaires. It's not one or the other. Capitalism has brought more people, has created more moving class structures than any other system ever in the history of the world, particularly America's brand, free enterprise capitalism. So it's easy to bitch about the billionaire, but guess what? The person who has that fountain machine that you're looking at bitching about the Coca-Cola because you're thinking about some CEO who has billions,
That allowed that guy to open up a franchise, Beaner's Coffee or whatever it is, Big B Coffee, and he's able to make good money, upper middle class. And that's a lot of people. And it's available to nearly all of you if you're basically competent. So instead of bitching about what somebody else has, try and take part in the common thread that connects every single moderately successful American. Improve yourself. You're the loser. And I'm not going to say it's not compassionate. We don't need to apologize for it. If you never advance, it's you. You're the problem. All right, we're going to have Julie Borowski after this break. Stay tuned.
This is breaking news on Louder with Crowder. I'm Perry Matheson. In the wake of controversy regarding Ben Carson's recent statements as a surrogate for Donald Trump's campaign, we take you live to an exclusive interview with our on-the-ground reporter, Jimmy. Jimmy!
Thank you, Perry. Mr. Carson, having said that you would be never Trump if not for your children, you've been criticized as not a very loyal surrogate. What do you say to your critics?
Well, to be fair, I don't think that's particularly accurate. I, in context, explain as to why I would be never Trump and as to why I wouldn't be.
Okay, I'm still not quite clear. Why is it? What's the context in which you would be never Trump?
Well, I don't think he'd make a very good president. I think it's pretty simple.
And in what context is that appropriate for a surrogate to say?
Listen, sometimes Donald can be a dick.
We'll keep you up to date as this exclusive interview unfolds. For breaking news on Louder with Crowder, I'm Perry Matheson.
All right, NotGayJared is asleep at the switch. He'll have to be promptly fired. I'm glad to bring this next guest on. I've watched her for a while. We sort of ran in the YouTube circles years ago, and you know her as Token Libertarian Chick. You can follow her YouTube channel. I highly recommend it at Julie Borowski. Borowski, and she just moderated the Libertarian Party debate. So she's moving on up and pretty high profile in the libertarian movement. Yeah, Julie, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay, so was that pretty exciting? You were there. I mean, what's the Libertarian Party debate? Isn't it sort of settled that it's going to be Gary Johnson, or are there still other people vying for it?
Well, I monitored the debate, and there was about, I guess, 8 other candidates. There was a couple of front runners. Gary Johnson will be the front runner. Then there's Austin Peterson and others. So yeah, that was a really good time.
Do you have a favorite yourself, or you doing the?
I don't want to endorse anyone yet. I apologize. This is my cat.
That's okay. You can endorse the cat.
I think I probably agree with Austin Peterson the most. I do know him. Gary Johnson I do like. However, I watched the Fox News debate with him the other night, and he said a couple of things that I didn't quite agree with.
Gary Johnson?
Yeah. He said that bakers should be forced to bake a cake for gay weddings, and he wants to limit mentally ill people from getting guns. So that was kind of, ooh.
Well, on its surface, people go, what is she saying here? She's saying mentally ill people should get guns, but I know what she's saying, and I actually agree with what Julie is saying. So hold your horses. Why are you laughing, NotGayJared? What is so funny? I'm sorry.
There is nothing funny.
What are you laughing about?
Nothing's funny.
Is it the cat?
Cats are never funny.
Is it because, I think I know why he's laughing.
Funny.
Because you mentioned that about Gary Johnson and the cake, and I've talked about it. I've always had this sneaking suspicion that Gary Johnson might be a little bit light in the loafers, and so the gay cake thing would stand to reason. I have nothing to substantiate that. But sometimes he's a little flippant and feminine for a male candidate. Am I the only one who's noticed?
I wouldn't go that far, but he does have quite a few liberal positions.
No, I'm not. Well, I'm not talking. See, you took it to a whole other level with the positions. I'm not talking about liberal positions. Oh, I am saying I think he might be a homosexual, but I have nothing to substantiate. I just mean sometimes he goes up there and I was like, oh, I might stand to reason with the cakes. I actually like Gary Johnson. Funny enough, I've talked about this. If it is Gary Johnson, Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton, there's not enough of a contrast. I don't know. I might flip the switch for Gary Johnson. I have no idea. Even though I don't consider myself a tried and true libertarian, I think there are a lot of people right now. You know what it comes down to? I don't believe that any of them are pro-life at this point, and that I'm not a one-issue voter, but that is a closed-handed issue. And I think Gary Johnson would be the guy, obviously has no chance of winning. If he did, he'd cut the beast off at the head, and even though he's not pro-life, he would defund it. So I'm like, okay, if someone's not pro-life, but they want to end my tax dollars funding baby killing, I can get on board. I don't know if that stands to reason.
Yeah, he's pro-choice. Austin Peterson is probably, I think, the biggest pro-life person in the race. Donald Trump, I don't know where he stands on that issue because he was pro-life before and now he says he's pro-life.
What day is it?
And when he asked about the punishment, he didn't even know. So I don't know where he stands on that issue.
Well, exactly. Well, the same thing as Austin Peterson. I just mean a third-party candidate. You know, it's a protest vote. I understand that, but I think we might, if it's Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, I don't think there's enough of a contrast where I think a protest vote makes sense. At that point. And do you see a lot of that in this election? People who never even thought of that? Do you think coming into the fold, just throwing their hands up and they're tired of it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Libertarian Party, I think they're probably going to do the best that they've done in decades on this election because it's funny. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, it seems like no one really likes them that much. So I think people are going to go for a protest vote. I voted for Gary Johnson in 2012 because I didn't like Mitt Romney or Obama, but now I'm definitely going to vote for a third party because I can't stand any of the front runners.
If it was Rand Paul, would you have voted Republican?
Yeah, I would have voted for Rand Paul.
Okay, so even the next closest thing being Ted Cruz, why is that a no-go?
I like Ted Cruz on some domestic policy issues, but when it comes to foreign policy, he kind of scares me. He said things like, let's make the sand glow in the Middle East, which is just like, for me, I am a non-interventionist, so I'm like, I don't know.
So I guess my question, and I understand where you're coming from, and I'm more libertarian than most conservatives. I would lean more libertarian than conservative in a lot of ways. I just don't use a label because Bill Maher, Brett Gutfeld, and Glenn Beck all at one point, I'm like, what does a label mean? So I just say conservative, and if people ask me to explain. What's the libertarian idea right now? How do you think a president should deal, for example, with ISIS, where we are?
It's such a hard question. I think that's why Rand Paul didn't do as well this election because of the whole ISIS thing. When you talk about non-interventionism, people think you're a pacifist. People think that you're completely anti-war, whereas I think that most libertarians, including myself, are not completely anti-war.
Right.
I think if there is a real threat from ISIS, especially if they threaten to attack us, and if they do, I think that we should respond. I'm not completely like, let them do whatever they want to do. But it's definitely a hard question.
Do you think any because that's one thing, libertarians have just not had answers for that. And I think more people would look at them if they did. Is there anyone there who you think has a solid answer? If Rand Paul didn't do it, would it be Peterson? Would it be Johnson? Who answers that question so people go, okay, I can take you seriously, Libertarian Party?
Oh, I honestly think that's one of our downfalls right now because people are so scared of ISIS, all this fear-mongering. If you don't say, we're going to go over and defeat ISIS, people think that you're weak on that issue. It's one of those really hard things.
But you just said fear-mongering, and I think that's kind of throwing...
Yes.
So then you need to kind of rationalize, why is it fear-mongering? That would mean that ISIS is not a threat. So again, that comes back to the question, how does a libertarian candidate say it's fear-mongering? Why?
I don't think ISIS is as big of a threat as the news makes it out to be, especially to us. Of course, in the Middle East, ISIS is a huge threat to those people, but I don't think they're as big as a threat to us as the news makes it out to be. But of course, when you say that, people just think, you're just naive on the issue.
Yeah, I think some people would. I can understand arguments on that. I mean, I can understand certainly looking back and people saying, well, okay, Iraq didn't work out and that was a mistake, and I can see arguments on both sides, provided they're honest, provided they're not spreading falsehoods like there were no WMDs or something like that. If they say, listen, there were WMDs, Saddam out is good, but I don't think we should have done it, great. I'm on board with libertarians there. My question is always, okay, we're here now, and that is, I think, an issue, like you said, is disconcerting if people aren't offering a viable solution to deal with it when people are sort of being burned alive in cages. I think there are two libertarians, and I think you've just sort of, which I'm grateful for, defined yourself as, there are libertarians who are going, okay, good enough is good enough. Like you said, Rand Paul, you would have voted for him. And I think a lot of libertarians, like at the Libertarian Club when I was in college, they're out of a movement if all of a sudden, right, the libertarian candidate actually has a shot. So do you see the libertarian movement kind of taking like a Tea Party approach of taking back the Republican Party, putting in people like Rand or like Justin Amash is a great representative in Michigan? Do you think that's the approach, or do you think go boom, full third party and separate and stay that way?
There are different sides to the libertarian movement. I think there are people who believe in the Libertarian Party, they're going to go that way. And then there's libertarians who believe that taking over the Republican Party is the right way to go. I think a lot of libertarians just kind of got fed up with the Republican Party after Ron Paul, after what they did to him in the convention, all those rules, which now are backfiring against the establishment. So there's two different things. Well, I guess there's actually three different things. We also have the anarchists in the movement who want nothing to do with politics. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, those are the people who, if it's not Rand Paul, they go to Bernie, the anarchists, a lot of them. So I wouldn't put them in the same vein as someone who's as thoughtful as you. Why is that? Why did half of Ron Paul's people go Rand and half of them go Bernie? It doesn't make, you couldn't get any more opposite from Ron Paul. I mean, I disagree with him on some things. I love him on some issues, but I don't understand how someone can rationalize that. Am I in the dark here?
It seems like there are quite a few people in the whole Ron Paul movement, which I was a part of, were really just there because they were contrarians, they were anti-establishment, they just wanted to burn the system to the ground, and they feel that Bernie Sanders is the best person to do that. But also, I've noticed a lot of Ron Paul people going to Donald Trump. Even anarchists who supported Ron Paul going to Donald Trump, which makes no sense to me.
Well, how do you, like someone like you who, whether someone disagrees with you or not, has been consistent, see something like the alt-right, which consisted of a lot of libertarians, and now they're sort of nationalist Trump supporters, populism. What do you think when you're watching this election unfold and you see people who claimed your mantle now going Trump?
Oh, I think there are good people who go to Donald Trump and they do it for the right reasons.
Sure.
But there's also, like you said, the alt-right. And I've seen some libertarians go down this rabbit hole where they're so against politically correct culture, which I'm against too.
Sure.
But they become so completely against it that they become spiteful and they go to the alt-right. And that these people, those are really insane people. I mean, they have legit neo-Nazis in there, which is not libertarian whatsoever.
No.
So it's really scary to see. I wish we could just bring them back and just be like, okay, think about this, be logical, ugh.
I think it's just a lot of anger, and anger's not, the right reason to vote. Have you seen, because you have someone like Ben Shapiro, who's conservative, but again, much more libertarian than people would realize if they actually look at what he believes. And, they've had him on the show, and obviously Milo, and they've sort of taken two different directions, and Ben's been a target. Have you felt some of these people, like you just said, not all of the alt-right, there are a lot of people who go there for the right reasons. Have you felt the wrath of some of these people for remaining libertarian, and they're not happy with you?
Oh, yes. I get all kinds of hate on Twitter for it. Gosh, they say all kinds of terrible things about me, that I'm naive for being a libertarian still. I'm politically correct, which is crazy to me that somebody would think I'm politically correct. Also, that I don't hate all immigrants, so I must, be part of this whole politically correct culture.
Well, that's another thing. There are two different kind of ideas on libertarianism, where some are much more open to, I guess, not necessarily open, but more free borders. And then there are some who think, no, it's a problem we really need to fix and take seriously. Where do you line up, and which candidate, I guess, because that's a big issue too. Like you said, the kind of weakness, ISIS, foreign policy for libertarians is not a good year for them to run. Immigration is a hot button issue. How should libertarians handle that in this election, or how do you see it?
Honestly, I'm torn on immigration because we do have this huge welfare state and people come here and some people just want to get on the government dole.
Right.
Some immigrants do that, but at the same time, there are some immigrants who come here who are very smart, very educated, and come here for a better life, and they do contribute to society. For me, I think the biggest issue is how bureaucratic the system is, how many years it takes to become a legal citizen of this nation. I've seen some of my friends go through that system, and for me, that's the biggest issue, that people come here legally and they follow the law, they're good people, but it's just so hard to become a citizen.
Yeah, I think you're right on that, but my mother, being a legal immigrant, would argue that it should be. And no one is more frustrated with people who don't go through the process and don't learn the language than a lot of legal immigrants. So, yeah, I think there are two sides to that coin. And it's a reasoned argument. Speaking of which, we must go to a reasonable break for our evil corporate overlords. Hopefully we have some of that Koch brother money. But we will be back, dear listener, with token libertarian chick Julie Borowski. Stay tuned.
Whoa, Jared, what are you doing?
Shoot bad guys.
With what?
My AR-15.
Where'd you get it?
AR-15.com.
Oh, there's another one. You got him.
Yeah.
Thank God for AR-15.com. They have AR-15 and accessories for sale and the best advice there is on the web. Oh, no, there's another one. You got him.
Yeah.
With your what?
AR-15.
From where?
AR-15.com.
That's the best place to go, and that's the takeaway because this commercial's about to stop.
This is breaking news on Louder with Crowder. I'm Harry Matheson. In the wake of controversy regarding Ben Carson's recent statements as a surrogate for Donald Trump's campaign, we take you live to an exclusive interview with our on-the-ground reporter, Jimmy. Jimmy!
Dr. Ben Carson, I don't think you're fully aware of the role of a surrogate. You're not supposed to say these things about the person you're representing. Respectfully, no, that's not true. And that's the kind of mindset that has Americans tired of politics in general. Americans are tired of their surrogates not trashing the candidates for whom they work. I don't like him. I don't like Donald Trump. But I have to support him because this is my job. You're the worst surrogate ever. You realize that. You're kind of a dick, too.
We'll keep you up to date as this exclusive interview unfolds. For breaking news on Louder with Crowder, I'm Harry Matheson.
You're a strange animal, that's what I know. But you're a strange animal, I got to follow. Oh, I'm in the spiritus.
Glad to be back. Serious show, serious guest, clever guest, smart lady. I don't know. That's a microaggression right off the bat. Damn it, NotGayJared. You're supposed to keep me in line.
It's just too much to handle.
YouTube channel, Julie Borowski, BOROWSKI. I keep wanting to say why. Julie, thanks for being back with us.
Thanks.
Okay, I know we have to go to this break and we have these commercials. Yeah, on the immigration issue, there are definitely two sort of splits with libertarians. What about the two-party system? Libertarians complain about that a lot. I'm a big fan of the two-party system. That's why I asked that kind of question before, if they think about taking Republican Party swaths of the Republican Party or staying third party and remaining forever pretty ineffectual. What do you think, and what's the sentiment right now in the true libertarian community?
Like I said, there's two camps there. I'm not against the Libertarian Party. I vote for the Libertarian Party a lot of the times. But I think probably taking over the Republican Party is a more effective strategy. Like you mentioned, Justin Amash, Thomas Massey, Ron Paul, Rand Paul, all very libertarian leaning who are in the Republican Party, and they're doing good. That I'm not trying to say, and people always get on me and say, "Oh, Julie's trying to tell us what to do." I mean, you can do whatever you want to do.
Well, that's the problem with libertarians, especially if you have
Yeah.
self-professed anarchists who then support Trump. They're just, don't tell me what to do, Julie. But, you know, the problem is if you're the Libertarian Party, right, you never win. I mean, the whole reason for the two-party system, I was raised in Canada, parliamentary system, right? The reason for the two-party system is to avoid the absolute crap show that you see right now in a primary, right? Where someone who can't get above 35% of the vote can hijack a primary and win a nomination. Well, that's what happens if ever you don't have a two-party system, right? You don't have someone who represents even close to a majority. I mean, we've had prime ministers in Canada elected with, you know, I want to say 35%. So I think a lot of libertarians in college, I certainly wouldn't include you there, but a lot of my libertarian friends like, the two-party system, man. Well, look at the primary right now. That's what we want to avoid. Do you think a lot of... Do people really think of that? Or are they just, again, angry? Are libertarians as angry as the Trump and the Bernie voters?
I think third parties give people an alternative. Like you said, it's kind of a protest vote,
Right.
saying that, you know, I don't like any of these two candidates, so I'm going to vote for this person. I think it's a good alternative. I'm not exactly opposed to it. I think the problem is that most people are opposed to third parties because they don't think they can win, so they don't vote for them.
Right.
I think that's the biggest struggle for the Libertarian Party, is that when you vote for libertarians, oftentimes people will accuse you of voting for the Democrat in the race. In 2012, I got accused of voting for Obama I don't know how many times. So I think that's the biggest struggle for third
Well, a
parties.
significant portion of libertarians did. I was shocked to find some of my friends at Reason who voted for Obama. Shocked at that point.
No.
And I want, you know, some of them, I guess, they have a discrepancy as far as where the priorities are with social issues. And then, of course, there's some libertarians who, you know, just want to smoke a bunch of pot. Do you have to pat people down at your meetings to make sure they're not bringing in the wacky tobacco?
Actually, there's a lot of libertarians who don't smoke pot. Yes,
I know,
of
but
course,
that's what
there
they
are
constantly
libertarians
talk
who
about.
smoke pot.
The T-shirts clearly
yeah.
said there would be pot.
The T-shirts clearly said, yeah.
I think if we just legalized it, then we can just talk about other issues.
Yeah, I don't think libertarians would. You know, and that's one thing. A good example is Ted Cruz or myself. Okay, here's one. People say, well, you're not libertarian on pot. States want to legalize pot? Go ahead. States want to vote and say no? Fine. Federal government should stay out of it. How is that not reasonable?
But in your states, if it came up, marijuana legalization, how would you vote?
What does that have to do, again, with the view of a legitimate role of government? Two separate things.
I was just asking your personal opinion.
Personal opinion, well, I think we've seen Colorado. It hasn't had the results that people claimed it would. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I've never smoked pot. I'm open about that. I don't begrudge people who do. I think, generally speaking, if someone's a fully grown adult and they're healthy, it's probably not that big of a deal. My main issue, and this is where, you know, again, libertarians, they should look at Ted Cruz as a state issue. Boom, great. Instead, they focus on him saying, I'd vote against it in my state. It doesn't matter. Just like it doesn't matter if you think he's a crazy Christian. It doesn't matter if he's the guy who doesn't want the power that comes with the job, right? Just like I could vote for an atheist if he's going, I just don't care. I don't want to be enforcing my beliefs on anyone. That's where I think a lot of libertarians get it wrong with Ted Cruz. My issue is people vote. It needs to be honest. It's not medicine. Doesn't lower crime. Kids are not being jailed for smoking a joint. That's not happening. Our prisons are not overcrowded with people who are just single-time drug offenders. That's not the case. People say, hey, we want to vote. We want to get high. What we put in our bodies is our own business. And the state says, sure, I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I think all states should legalize it, though.
Okay, but they don't. Is it okay? Is that a libertarian viewpoint for for states to have the right to say, no, we saw Colorado. We don't want it in Texas or I don't know, New Hampshire?
It's a libertarian position. That's a difficult one because some libertarians say it should be a state issue. States should decide, but also you have to look at it from the individual's perspective. States can also take away your freedom. So I think some libertarians will say that all states should legalize it.
Well, should states have the right to instate like public schools?
Gosh.
That's what I'm against the federal Department of Education, right?
Yeah.
But I think if the state of Michigan says we want public schools just like our parents had, they should have the right to do it. And if states say we don't want to,
state issue.
yeah. So why not the same with with drugs?
Because you have to look at it as an individual perspective. That's how kind of I view it.
But it's the same with public
state
schools. They're still taking taxes. I'm saying both are the same issue. If it's not enumerated in the powers of the Constitution. And I get so much flack for libertarians. I'm going, listen, if you don't think I'm an ally, no one is an ally. The only ally is someone who's saying, smoke weed, it cures cancer, in the comments section on YouTube. I think if states go to it, and you know what, you're probably on the winning side where more states will legalize it than not.
Yeah, I hope so, because I think it's an individual freedom issue. Also, it's going to save a lot of taxpayer dollars. And as you said, I think police officers are even coming around on this issue and saying, no, we have better things to do than bust teenagers for smoking marijuana.
I certainly think they have better things to do. Well, can we do a web extended version there? Because I think this is an interesting topic. I think there's some interesting information that's come out with Colorado, but I think we would agree on most of those things. So if you're listening terrestrially, podcast, extended version, Julie Borowski, stay tuned.
Breaking news on Louder with Crowder, I'm Harry Matheson. In the wake of controversy regarding Ben Carson's recent statements as a surrogate for Donald Trump's campaign, we take you live to an exclusive interview with our on-the-ground reporter, Jimmy. Jimmy!
Dr. Ben Carson, let's try this one more time. If you felt this way about Donald Trump, why would you feel it's your role to act on his behalf on the campaign trail? Listen, I think we're in a position where I don't have a choice. Okay, I still have some questions about Mr. Donald Trump. Okay? Did he cheat on his first wife? Or his second wife? What are his how are they going to reduce government? I want to know. Don't you want to know? I want to know. Yes, Dr. Ben Carson, we all want to know. Does this mean that you'll no longer be acting as a representative of the Trump campaign? No, I'll certainly still be representing the Donald Trump campaign with great pride and fervor.
We'll keep you up to date as this exclusive interview unfolds. For breaking news on Louder with Crowder, I'm Harry Matheson.
Get excited. Here we go.
Glad to be back. Second hour. Of course, producing with me in studio as always is Jared, who is not gay. Follow him on Twitter at NotGayJared. I fulfill my legal obligations. Draw your own conclusions. We're good.
We good. Follow me. Do lots of it. Not gay stuff there.
Do lots of it. We'll be reading some tweets
Lots
from
of
at @isjaredgay afterward.
Is Jared gay?
There are some people. You should follow us on Twitter if you're not. Is Jared gay? At @isjaredgay. Some sleuths out there. Some hardy boys. You know what I mean? They're looking into NotGayJared's path.
Not funny, haha, funny queer.
That's what they're thinking. Okay, before we go, I want to go into a segment here pretty soon. Two things. NotGayJared, I have this up on my screen, just got another text from the Fight for 15. So keep in mind we talked about this in the first hour. At no point have any of the multiple forms of contact that NotGayJared has given them actually been alerted as to where or when the events take place, correct?
Correct.
And now they're saying, what a day. We want to hear how yours went. Text us back with your favorite story. I'm
It's going to
looking
be
at
a
the
short
thread.
text back.
Bring it up right here. Bring it up. This is the thread of texts. At no point have they told anyone who's signed up online, where or when it's happening. You can only know if you're a part of some double secret probation club. I have no idea. So again, keep this in mind when people talk about it. This entire thing is a sham. Also, really quick, we're going to have SooperMexican on at on the half hour there, and we're going to play Spot the Tranny. Bring that game back. People like the Spot the Tranny. Which brings me, we wanted to talk about the bathroom laws. We have so much to get to this week, but of course, the North Carolina, Mississippi, Bryan Adams, Bruce Springsteen, and
Ringo Starr
have canceled their tours in North Carolina.
Well, yeah, I think one of them was a different state.
One of them was Mississippi.
Bryan Adams was Mississippi.
Yeah,
for the same sort of law or whatever. Yeah.
And the biggest losers are the other 49 states where they weren't canceled.
Yes, exactly.
Of course, but not Egypt.
Not Egypt.
Or Dubai, places where people like Bryan Adams play frequently, where they can throw you off a roof for frosted tips. So keep that in mind. And I know it's easy, it's low-hanging fruit to point out the hypocrisy. I do want to, we'll talk more about Springsteen and Bryan Adams and why they suck so badly. The main thing with Bryan Adams is every time I hear a Bryan Adams song, they're not bad songs, but I'm thinking, oh, that would be a lot better if it weren't Bryan Adams. He's the only artist where covers of his songs are better than the original songs. Mm-hmm. You want to hear someone else do it.
That's fair.
You would rather hear Journey doing
a
Bryan Adams song.
Most anything, really.
Yes. But the main thing, we'll come back to this, the issue, they say, well, it's anti-gay. The only thing is transsexuals want to use a bathroom without proving anything. A man with a penis puts on a dress, thinks he has the right to use a bathroom. That's all it is. There is nothing else. There is nothing else. This is a protection where not only do they use that bathroom, but businesses have the right to say, no, you use the gender that you are, and protects businesses, of course, from things like the business. Well, we'll get into that because there's so many businesses and examples, and people say, whoa, why are you panicking? It has happened. So that's the entire thing. Penis, men's room, this is why people are canceling their tours. There is nothing more to it. They try and say it's anti-gay and because they're trying to feather in the at-will state, which means I can fire NotGayJared because I don't like his face. The fact that he happens to be not gay is incidental, and it has nothing to do with this law. Every state is an at-will state, and then they carve out exceptions.
So I don't like my face, so it would be completely reasonable.
It would be entirely reasonable. It would be expected.
I would expect you to.
So that's what they're trying to tack on more. It's not. That's not what the bill is about. The at-will state is separate. But I want to get to something that's gone viral this week. BuzzFeed video was questions for black people. So we're going to do this live right now for those watching the live stream and listening, and then of course it will be up as a video. But BuzzFeed put out this video, questions for black people, of course entirely black people, based of course on stereotyping black people in pigeonholing them, and then bitching about how you're stereotyping and pigeonholing them. So yes, I know that I'm white, but I'm going to answer these questions not as a black person, not as a white person, not as someone with a penis or lack thereof, but using logic. Let's go through the video.
If my dab is on fleek.
Did we just mess this up? I didn't hear it. All right, are you queued up there, NotGayJared?
Yep.
All right, let's go to the video.
Why is it a problem?
Let's see.
This is not going to work?
This is not going to work. This may not work.
This may not work? What happened?
Not work. What happened was we had no time to test this. That's the problem.
So it's not going to work, the clips?
It may not work. The clips may not work.
Okay. Does that mean no? That means you want me to move on?
Yeah, get back to me.
Okay,
get back to me.
All right.
Your punishment must be more severe.
But we will get back to that. So, okay, let me take that time then with the transsexual, the tranny bathroom issue. That's as simple as it is. It has nothing to do with the at-will state being fired at will. Gay people are not being targeted and being fired. Now, why are states at-will states? Because they want to avoid the exact kind of frivolous lawsuits that are now occurring when men with penises try and use a ladies' restroom. Guess what? That's expensive for businesses. They're trying to avoid that. That's why it's an at-will state. Two separate issues. But they want to say, look, they can fire gay people at will. They can fire black people at will. They can fire white people at will. They can fire men, women. They don't have to give you a reason. That's what at will means. It has nothing to do with tallywhackers in the ladies' room. When it comes down to this issue, of course, people talk about religious protection. Remember when the LGBTQ, AAIP, and a silent F, they said, listen, we don't care about your churches. You do your own thing. We just want our own civil rights. Well, civil unions weren't enough. Gay marriage, Supreme Court ruling, it's not enough. Bathrooms, not enough. Gender-neutral bathrooms, not enough. That's still hate speech. Just saying, listen, we don't want to do the complications, so here, men's room, women's room, and let's create a gender-neutral bathroom. That's not enough. Still hate speech. Saying, okay, you have the right to get married, you're recognized in the state, it's entirely the same as straight marriage, but if a bed and breakfast doesn't want to host your wedding, they have the right to. That's not enough. Listen, yeah, of course, in the eyes of the law, you are totally married, but we can't force a bakery to be involved with your wedding. Not enough. Bakeries, pizzerias, bed and breakfasts, landlords, all have either faced lawsuits or been shut down. And they said it wasn't going to affect any of you. They weren't going to come for the churches. Well, now, guess what they're protesting? Protection for churches and businesses. That's their problem. There are so many stops on this logic bus where you could have gotten off and there could have been some logical compromises. That's not what they want. That's not what the LGBTQAI number 2 squared wants. It will never be enough, and once this happens in the bathroom, if there's a Supreme Court ruling denying basic biology, they'll move on to something else. Maybe like salon.com with pedophilia. And people say, no, go to salon.com. They wrote several articles, I'm a pedophile, but I'm not a monster. No, you are a pedophile and you're a monster. This is mainstream leftism. We're not talking fringe sites, okay? This is where we are. And one thing I do want to talk about, it's not necessarily about predators, because you can't argue that, namely because we haven't studied, hey, guys with dongs going into women's rooms in the United States, does that result in more sexual assault? We don't know. Understanding the sexually predatorial nature of men, I would guess so. But let's not even argue that. You don't even need to. The overwhelming majority of women are wildly uncomfortable and feel very exposed when men walking in there use the restroom. An overwhelming amount of men with daughters are wildly uncomfortable with their daughters being in a restroom with men. If you want to talk about rape culture, we don't even need to get to sexual assault, right? If a guy looks at you wrong on a campus at Columbia, it's rape culture. But tossing a guy in the ladies' room with 6-year-old girls, no, that's not a problem. What's wrong? What's the matter with you? What are you saying they're going to do? I don't know. I probably wouldn't be super uncomfortable if some Caitlyn Jenner-like sprite waltzed on into the men's room. I probably wouldn't care. But you know what? I think my wife would if someone like me in a wig walked in. I think she'd be uncomfortable.
It'd be very uncomfortable.
Well, and I don't think it'd be a safe atmosphere. I don't. Why should we completely, just absolutely run roughshod over the rights of 99.999 whatever percent of Americans for the rights of a very, very small percentage? Not the rights, the wants. They're not rights, they're not needs. By the way, you don't have the right to use whatever bathroom you want. That's not a right. Certainly not in a private business. If I walk into a store, by the way, Subways never have bathrooms. They never
Subways?
They never have bathrooms. Oh. You need the employee key.
The whole thing smells like a bathroom.
The whole thing smells like a bathroom.
And it stays with you for like days.
Oh my gosh, how far Subway has fallen.
Ugh.
But there are businesses all the time. No, you can't use the bathroom unless you buy something. They can't do that with Bob, who calls himself Bess. That's an ACLU phone call waiting to happen. You sir, no bathroom, not a paying customer, no bathroom. Oh, you with the dick in your dress. Come on right in. Videotape. I know it's illegal, but make sure everybody knows I'm tolerant, right? The dude with the dog in the dress is coming in. I let him in. You, sir, not so fast. You have to buy energy drink, some Tic Tacs or something. You carry your beautiful tallywhacker right on there into the ladies' room. Let everybody know. At this gas station, we tolerate the LGBTQAAIP. Do I have that right? I forgot an A. Oh, I'm so sorry. Take for free. Don't call the ACLU. That's what's going to happen. How many of you, tweet me, how many of you out there at S. Crowder have been denied using a bathroom in a private place? They've always had that right. Now we've just tacked on absurdity. This is the LGBTQAAIP bully pulpit. It's not even a majority of gay people. There have got to be tons of gay people out there who are going, they say anti-gay law. This has nothing to do with me. Okay, don't lump me in with the highest suicide rate in the industrialized world, higher than Holocaust victims and American slaves and schizophrenics, because they can't accept their basic biology because I have a different preference of friction. It's not the same thing. But they're piggybacking on it. Not to create that visual, but I just created that visual. We have to go pretty soon. We're going to take some calls, right?
Yep.
We have a bunch of calls this week, and okay, your calls after the break. Get it right. LGBTQAAIP is the real thing. We're serious here. Stay tuned. Okay, business time. Really simple. Some of you don't know where to find me. Louderwithcrowder.com. Half a dozen to 10 articles every single day. Twitter. Follow me at @SCrowder. Louder with Crowder podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, or any other podcatching device. YouTube.com/Steven Crowder, or you can type in Steven Crowder on Facebook and be one of the 1 million+ fans, or join the mailing list. There are so many ways for you to stay connected. You have no excuse. You have no excuse, just like you have no excuse for those rolls that are just cascading over your belt buckle. You should be ashamed. Unless you're a lady, then you deserve a get her a medal.
Greetings, humans. This is a Hopper takeover. The good news is I come in peace. All you have to do is send Hopper all your sardines and cheeses, and no one will be harmed. You have until the next commercial break to answer.
Glad to be back. A good time in the studio, live stream today. And I usually don't like to do this because I hate it when hosts just pump the phone lines and it can get kind of lazy. Who wants to hear
what Johnny from Jacksonville. Jacksonville. Nothing good goes on down there. Nothing.
I don't. We have actually a lot of listeners. This has started off to a weird start. Anyway, but today we do want to open the phone lines and hear what's on your mind. So, NotGayJared, we have somebody on the line.
Yeah, we got Sam, and I don't think he said where he's from. But
okay. So Sam, if you're there on line one, you are getting louder with Crowder, sir.
Hey, Steven, thanks for having me on this show. I appreciate you opening the airwaves to the common folk.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Sam, what's on your mind today?
Well, I wanted to see, your opinion on what you thought about this Donald Trump winning all the primaries.
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. He hasn't won all of the primaries, and he's certainly not winning all of the delegates. I get that the Trump people are upset about it, but these are the rules, and he's been organized poorly. So I guess I don't know what your question is. He hasn't won all the primaries, and there's a strong chance he doesn't get the nomination. That's what I think.
Well, see there, you're clearly coming from a certain place, okay?
Okay, well, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm coming from a certain place?
Well, you clearly don't like the guy, okay? Now, what I want to know is, he's got that comb over, and when it blows over in the wind, his head looks exactly like a which is what you suck all day long.
Okay, that's not necessary. If we're gonna keep you on the line, you're gonna have to keep it simple. I don't want NotGayJared to have his work cut out for him with the censor button, okay?
I'm just saying, I think you would like the guy since you like suck.
Okay, come on, seriously, let's. You got one last shot. Do you have anything to say that's productive to add to the conversation?
Well, yeah, you're a sucking, you're an ass.
Jared, you're supposed to scream this. That's why we don't take phone calls.
That's why we don't take phone calls.
When we have other people on the line, when are we going to go to Donnie in Chicago?
I think a couple segments coming up.
Okay.
Just be calling in.
We did get some tweets. People asking me. Okay, they wanted us to talk about the Trump issue going on right now this week with Michelle Fields. So we're going to have Ed Morrissey on, who's more of a policy wonk. Listen, we had Ben Shapiro on. I try to be fair in that situation. It really comes down to, do you believe that you should grab a reporter or not? Doesn't look like Lewandowski is going to be charged. So there we are. Does that mean there's justice? No. Any of the many, many dozens of people who tried to file police reports at the Lansing Right to Work protest when their tent was cut down and were told that they were unable will tell you that justice isn't always served. But listen, you have to be fair. If you're going to go that route with the law, you see the ride, you bought the ticket, and there you are. Those are the results. So they're not going to charge him. They did say he did grab her, and I don't have the exact wording in front of me. Didn't seem like it was too big of a. It didn't seem like they were too fond of it. But they said, an apology would have ended this whole legal procedure.
Imagine that. But that's kind of a grown-up thing,
right? An
for
apology.
the Trump camp.
So that's where we are with that. I don't really have any more opinions on that. She apparently, Michelle Fields is filing perhaps a defamation suit, and I know they threatened, said she doesn't want to do that because they'll dig through her past. So I don't know. What am I going to speculate about at this point? If it were me, I wouldn't go with a defamation suit at this point. I would move on.
Yeah, I think there's only so much mud you could drag people through, and it doesn't really benefit anybody. I don't like it. What do you get out of it?
Right.
A ruined career for everybody?
Well, I think what happened is it happened. It was shocking. That's not the way you typically treat reporters. I think it was genuine, the reaction. I don't think someone went in there looking to get this. People are trying to destroy this woman's career. Like I said with Ben, listen, either you think it's okay to grab reporters or not. As the level of which, then it's just a bunch of arguing over, well, how severe was it? It wasn't very severe. And as someone who has been violently assaulted, as someone who has family members who have been very violently assaulted, I don't like belittling it. But if that were my wife, and Lewandowski and I were alone, we'd have some words.
Yep.
One thing, it doesn't change the fact that, listen, okay, you want me to, I can't speculate because the law happened, right? You have to accept that sometimes, okay? You may not like it, but you have to accept it. I hope I'm being consistent here because I know the Trump people will either way, no doubt, be mad. And I'm hoping people on the other side understand, listen, you tried to file the charges, was justice served? Maybe not, but this is where we are. If they do a defamation suit, we'll keep you posted. Doesn't change the fact that Corey Lewandowski's a punk. Doesn't change the fact that every single time he grabs someone, it's when they're looking away. I think it's very telling. You know, when the protests are at the rally, right? The guy's looking at him. Lewandowski had nothing to say, nothing to do, and then he turns around and it's a yanking of the collar.
Yeah.
Any guy who's been in the arena, any guy who's wrestled in high school, any person who's ever been a combat or physical contact sport athlete knows that's a guy who wants out. Knows that's a guy who doesn't want to take. And same thing, grabbing a girl when always from behind, always coming up from behind. That's my personal opinion. But you know, I'm not a lawyer. Okay? So I don't think we have a bunch to talk about that. Here's something. People are talking about this. We'll talk with Ed Morrissey about this, okay? Ted Cruz is doing really well with the delegates, right? He's cleaning up delegates. And Trump is now complaining.
I think it's just because he understands how it works.
He understands how it works. Someone can correct me, and Ed Morrissey no doubt will. He knows this as well as anybody, and that's why we're having him on. The rules have been out there since August, and not a one has changed. None of them have changed. You may not like the rules, but these are the rules. Something else. People are saying, oh, it's not about the popular vote. It's not representative of the popular vote. Well, you know who benefits the most from that right now? Donald Trump. I read this over here. We have it from Ricochet. Great site. More wonky than me, but I read them every day. So far, Donald Trump has drawn 37% of the primary votes total. That's his ceiling. But he's won 45% of the delegates. So why are you complaining now? Like, for example, he only won 45% of Florida, gets away with all 99 delegates. So actually, if you look proportionally, Donald Trump proportionally has far more delegates than even the lead that he has. And of course, we know now that that's switched, where he's behind Ted Cruz in the national polls.
Yep.
Now, listen, the system is the way, I'm not saying it's a flawless system, but you can complain when it benefits the other guy, and then remain silent when it benefits you. Where was Trump when he was saying we shouldn't do winner take all? He's still banking on winner take all in New York. The rules have not changed. You saw the ride, you bought a ticket. What are we coming back with? More calls?
SooperMexican.
SooperMexican coming up. And now for Donald Trump Plays Family Board Games, brought to you by Milton Bradley and Al Jazeera.
Okay, your turn.
Okay, it's my turn. What are you doing? What are you doing here, okay, with Baltic Avenue? You're sitting on Baltic Avenue with the hotel. You're not doing anything with it, okay?
I can do whatever I want with it.
Okay, it's not true. That's not how the country works, okay? You can't sit there and do nothing with it. There's got to be some kind of a... Listen, I'm gonna call my lawyer. I hope your lawyer has a lot of vowels in his last name, okay? And I am going to make sure that you don't ruin... Baltic Avenue used to be great, okay, until you took it over, okay? It used to be fantastic. Frankly, what I'll do with Baltic... This whole game is rigged. This whole piece of game is rigged. Stay tuned for more. Donald Trump Plays Family Board Games, brought to you by Milton Bradley and Al Jazeera.
Whoa, Jared, what are you doing?
Shoot bad guys.
With what?
My AR-15.
Where'd you get it?
AR-15.com.
Oh, there's another one. You got him.
Yeah.
Thank God for AR-15.com. They have AR-15 and accessories for sale and the best advice there is on the web. Oh, no, there's another one. You got him.
Yeah.
With your what?
AR-15.
From where?
AR-15.com.
That's the best place to go, and that's the takeaway, because this commercial's about to stop.
All right, our next guest will remain silent because we actually have intro music for him. I just realized I was behind on Twitter, and so I had to let everyone know that he was coming on. Yeah, he has a fan base.
He is.
A lot of people
He's a
like
great
him.
guy.
So as long as the board is ready, let's go to our super racist intro, because when you hear this...
I am the singing at the party. I am singing, it's my turn to sing at the party.
That means it's SooperMexican from therightscoop.com. El Super, are you there with us?
Hello, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Okay, well, so people know that's not how you speak.
I know, well, it worked the first time, but I guess it's not going to work again.
Well, we don't want to risk it. You know, if someone out there who, you know, we have people who dissect everything, and they'll be like, they'll claim you're like a Joey Tribbiani. Like, that is the worst Mexican accent from a Mexican ever. Our fans are brutal.
This is actually happening to me right now. This is amazing. You're going to enjoy this. Is that this is what I do whenever I call into a radio show? Is that, you know, as a joke, I start off with a like really bad Mexican accent, like, "Hello, how are you doing?" And then I don't tell the host that I'm doing this, so they freak out. They're like, "Oh my God, is that how he's actually going to talk?"
Oh no!
And then 10 seconds later, I'm like, "I'm just kidding. This, that's not what I sound like." Well, anyway,
that means they're racist.
This is true. I do this for my podcast. I do this for everything, right? And there's these people out there who think that they don't understand that it's a joke, and so they think that I'm a fake Mexican because, I use a fake accent at first, and then I talk in my regular voice.
Well, what is your background?
Incredible. I was born in California, which is the northernmost point of Mexico.
Right.
And both of my parents are from Mexico.
Oh, okay.
But I was born here, so yeah. I'm American, but I'm from of Mexican descent.
Are your parents short?
I am taller than both of my parents.
I knew it.
So yeah.
I felt I was safe with those Vegas betting odds.
Yeah, we're good. We're all right there.
From Mexico.
So I really apologize, but apparently I don't have enough melanin in my voice. Like, I need to work on that. So I'll try to.
Yeah, you do need to work on it. And listen, I mean, I don't want to Mexican shame you, but I'd feel satisfied if you Mexican shamed yourself. You have had a busy week, so. Roger Stone, for those who don't know, former Trump active, what do you call him? Former Trump operative. He doesn't work with him anymore.
I think he was the campaign manager or something, or advisor or strategist.
What was the official title? Do you know?
Well, he was like his aide. He's a longtime friend. He's known him for many, many years. And right when Trump began his presidential campaign, he was fired all of a sudden. And ever since then, he's become this Trump operative, and they have the ability to say, well, he's not a part of the campaign, but anytime something really shady happens around Trump, Roger Stone is there. So
yeah, well, I wanted to talk about that because therightscoop.com is not a pro-Trump site. You're one of the few, and the problem is we've invited plenty of people on and they just won't do it. They won't argue on the show publicly. Many people out there, surrogates have all been invited. Don't want to do it. People who are big advocates, some of them whom are friends of mine, they said, well, this is a behind-the-scenes thing. So it's hard. It's not like, listen, we've had communists on and terrorists who want me dead. So if people out there who are legitimate sites, not if you have 100 followers, want to make the case, you're more than welcome to. But Roger Stone was saying he was going to post addresses. And a lot of people thought that was in poor taste. And you were calling him out a lot. And then he directly tweeted you, right?
Yeah, it was a very nondescript thing. I don't want to make a big deal about it, but it is kind of weird because what he tweeted was basically we've been going after him because, at least to us, it's the most obvious thing in the world, right? You fire this guy. He actually ran the dirty tricks political wing of Nixon's campaign way back in the day. So all of a sudden, he's calling for riots and protests. He's giving out addresses of people's names who are delegates, who are anti-Trump delegates. And so this is the clearest thing in the world to us. I don't know why other people aren't covering it.
Well, people
so we
got
write
mad at
about
us, and they said, well, you didn't talk about later in the interview where he said peaceful. Well, he said, it's like, okay, he said day of rage, and he was going to post addresses. Listen, I don't like Bernie Sanders, okay? I'm never going to post Bernie's address or people who support him and say, let's start a day of rage. I would hope that we could both agree on that, SooperMexican.
Did you know that you can peacefully rage, apparently?
You can peacefully rage.
Peacefully, you're just like...
Rage doesn't mean what you thought it meant.
I'm kind of angry.
Rage means peace. Penis means vagina. Sorry, El Super.
There you go. That's how it goes.
So, have you had anything behind the scenes as well, or no?
Not yet, yeah. But he so what he did is he sent this little tweet, and we really go hard on him because he really does seem like kind of a scummy guy. And so, I rail on him. I just say this is Trump's lackey, and he's kind of a scumbag. And so there was one of the headlines, and he responded. He just says, I love you too. I thought that's really odd. And to me,
had you directly replied him, or was he just the subject of the article?
I think he was monitoring, articles about him. And so I think, it was kind of a heads up like, hey, we're watching you.
Right.
Which is not something you want to hear from a psycho like him who has billionaire backing,
Well, no. Don't you hear? He stands up against the billionaires.
This is true.
He stands up against the establishment by posting addresses to people who were elected by their neighbors on a day of rage. A peaceful day of rage, El Super.
Exactly right. Well, that's because, we're taking away their vote. So that's why we deserve to be hunted down with pitchforks and torches. But no, it's completely absurd. And see, this is the thing that kills me is and I'm sure you get the same thing, is that all of these troglodytes, like these illiterate morons, and like we said last time we were talking about, that's not all of them.
Whoa. What is your problem? You insensitive asshole.
Continue.
They're not. There's some decent Trump people, that's fine, but the loudest ones are real cretins. Sure. And they come after me, and I'm sure you've gotten this too, where they say that I'm an establishment shill and that the GOP conjured me up and that I'm a product of the establishment. And it's insane. Like, I've been speaking out against the establishment for years now, but all of a sudden, if you're not on the Trump train, you are the enemy.
Well, Donald Trump wants it both ways. And he says, nobody likes Ted Cruz. Okay, none of these politicians like him. They like me. And then he says he's the one who's going to fight the politicians. And there's no track record of it. Yeah, you know what? And that's one thing that bothers me. I like him. But a lot of these hosts, listen, I'll say it. Mark Levin, you guys have supported, has been really good about this, and you can hear the frustration in his voice. But Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity and some of these people on Fox News, when they set it up as though Trump, but the establishment, they never say Trump, and you know what? And strong Tea Party conservatives who don't like him. It's a sleight of hand, and I know that they know better. So for some of these big names to simply paint it as though Trump and establishment, I don't know about you, but that seems to me like someone who's hanging on to a listenership in a dying medium and not being entirely forthright. Am I out of line?
I think that's true. I mean, I think that's kind of what Trump represents. It's really weird because Trump represents so much of the criticisms that liberals have been making against conservatives, and he just fulfills them. You know what I mean? So his supporters are, they're older. They actually don't care about conservative principles. They're very pragmatic. They just, they
I don't think they're pragmatic. I think they're selfish. I don't think that the wall idea and making Mexico pay, I understand where you're coming from, but I think that gives a lot of these people too much credit. I don't think it's pragmatic when there's no actual economic solution. It's just, I want no free trade. How? He's going to negotiate a good deal.
Oh, sure.
I don't think that's, but I understand what you were saying.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's not exactly the word for it. We have this strain in America that, and a lot of people have talked about it, is that we just want problems solved. We're very impatient. Like, if there's a problem, just solve it. And I think, proper, rational, philosophical conservatism says, hey, sometimes there are just problems that we need to wrestle with, and they're not specifically solvable. In fact, one of my heroes is Thomas Sowell. I think one of the epitome of conservative thought is this quote from him, which I think is utterly brilliant. And he says, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. I'm not even joking. I'm like Chris Matthews when I say it. I get tingly about it because I think that sums up conservative thought. Like, if somebody is selling you a solution, like, we should just do this and it's going to solve something, it's like, you're full of it. Every time that you have power and it's collected at the top and they're going to make a huge decision, there's going to be people who are negatively affected by it, and there's going to be people who are positively affected by it. And if somebody is telling you from the left or the right that they have this absolute solution that's going to fix everything, they're usually lying.
Well, that's antithetical to everything people railed against with Obama, right? Like, if people say the number one, well, it's immigration, I'm a single-issue voter. If you're going to be a single-issue voter, it should be about the disproportionate amount of power. In the last 8 years, you could argue in the last 16 years, George Bush did it too, that has been given to the executive office. Schoolhouse Rock, 3 branches of government. We're not in balance anymore. If you want to talk about the key issue, that's the key issue, right? And so you want the guy who doesn't really want the job. Sometimes you want the guy where they go, hey, I'm poor. Hey, I lost my job. And he goes, yeah, that sucks. Can't help you. Sometimes that's what's needed.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And there's too many people who, what I was really shocked by this. I mean, I thought that we were the rational party that kind of understood that not everything has a solution, and you can make things better or you can make things worse, but you can't positively completely solve everything. And Trump comes on the scene and is like, I am going to wave my, magic wand and I'm going to fix everything. And these people are falling for it. And you look at them and you're like, wow, like, you sound like a Democrat. That's what Democrats do. They think that you can wave this magic big government wand and solve everything. And that's not us. But
have you noticed something? Because you started off, and we were kind of in the same boat, where we always made fun of Trump because he's comedy gold. But we were like, listen, I understand the value in sort of shattering political correctness, and I think we were on the same page there. Let's see what happens. And then we realized he was never going to espouse things that we believed in. We were like, okay, well, here we are. And there was a transition. And have you noticed this? I have no problem with people, like you said, who say, listen, I don't care about any of those things anymore. I just want a wall. Or, you know what? I just want to do away with free trade. I'm fine with those people. You have those people, and then you have some people who had to do a lot of mental gymnastics, sort of the Christian Tea Party conservatives, or even just the Ron Paul sort of libertarian conservatives. And I feel like you're seeing some of those people now go, oh, okay, this isn't what I thought. Have you noticed that?
A little bit, yeah. I think, even early on, Ron Paul himself said that he wasn't going to endorse anybody because nobody was really espousing the views of libertarianism, and I think I'm seeing a little more of those people come around because they're I don't throw myself in with that crowd completely, but I do agree with them on a lot of things. At least they're principled. They're very principled about these things. Probably, to an extreme. Like, that's the fault, is that they're overly principled on a few things and they want to jettison everything else out, having to do with social conservatism and things like that. But in any case, they are actually very principled, and I think what they're seeing is that this guy is the like you said, the antithesis of what they.
I think they first thought, we have to go to a break soon. I think, and we can talk about it. We'll come back. You're playing Spot the Tranny, right?
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Okay, great. Yeah, we'll all lose our jobs. I think they thought, hey, libertarians, they were pulled between destroying the two-party system, but then they realized this could be actually worse than the rhinos. So I understand they were tired of Republicans, like we all were. And then there was another fork where, okay, Ted Cruz and Donald Trump are not the typical Republicans. And now there's another choice. All right, SooperMexican, we'll come back. Your favorite game, Spot the Tranny. Yes, tons of hate speech ahead. Stay tuned.
This week in cultural appropriation.
Well, Mr. Sakuraba,
Your application here at the University of Michigan is nothing short of impressive.
Thank you very much. I try to bring you my family great honor.
Well, you've certainly done that.
Oh, thank you.
Your SATs are incredible. Your extracurriculars are through the roof. Your grades are as good as they can be.
I work for many sons.
Uh-huh. Yeah, unfortunately, we do have a slight problem.
Are we clear?
You know, the truth
Yeah.
is your
How much time
situation
do we
just isn't that all uncommon.
Right.
And
Well, we gotta figure out the.
honestly, we have too many Asians
you know,
here
you really
at the
did
U
screw
of
me
M.
with the fight for.
I don't understand.
That's a
I
problem.
know it may
Well,
seem
we have other videos now,
counterintuitive,
probably.
but
Doesn't
because
matter if we
you
have other videos
people
now,
have
but we're
been
expecting
so
to tape that, and then,
successful,
you know,
we
you didn't get it done.
actually have the opposite
told you.
of
It's
a
one-
quota.
They didn't tell me
and
when
we're
they
going
were
to give your
when they were
spot
marching.
I know they didn't
to
tell you, but
somebody
you can make a few phone calls. That's
who's
the
worse.
point. I can't
Worse,
know.
Yes.
You know what the problem
See,
is?
I've only got so much time on my hands.
Listen.
They didn't
Well,
email me.
lower
I texted them. I
grades,
signed up for the
test
text thing. They
scores,
didn't text me.
extracurriculars,
They didn't
really
email
I
me.
understand. That's how unions operate.
And this
That's
is
what they do.
only
My
because
point
of my
is,
arrest
I
today.
can't
Well, I
come
can't
in
know
the
how
morning the
unions
video's supposed
operate
to
if you don't
happen.
tell me how unions
This is
operate. I
great
don't live in this
injustice.
world.
I can't
I will
come
sue
in
you.
Well, we
and
heard
not
that
know
before.
ready to
I will
tape
find a Jewish lawyer with
in
many vowels
costume,
in his last
and then
name
you tell me.
and sue
There should be an
you.
order
Good
where I
luck
hear
with
it
that. We've had to curb
before
our
that.
intake of Jews,
You understand
too.
that, right?
You groups are just so successful.
I have brought the great dishonor on my family.
About 20 seconds.
PTSD measure. Oh my God! Stop him! No, don't stop him. We have to respect his culture.
Join us next week for more in cultural appropriation.
When it's time to party, we will party hard.
All right, we are back with SooperMexican at SooperMexican, spelled with 2 O's. Are you with us, sir?
Yes.
Okay, you are with us. And have you ever seen this game before? Are you aware of the rules?
I don't think I have.
Okay, so let me set it up for you. We've played it we played it a few times. We played it last time, most recently with Gavin McGinnis. So I have said that I have a tranny dar and have not been fooled yet. That is very easy to determine. This is my argument, and so NotGayJared, my producer, sets up pictures, and we play it. You and I can compete here to see, and I'm the reigning champion.
Yep.
We're going to see a picture, and we're going to simple. Is it a transgender, or is that a real male or woman? And then we're going to tally up the score. Any questions?
All right, I think I got it.
And you're comfortable. You're not. It's okay. We don't expect you to be.
I don't think you can be. If you're comfortable with this game, there's something wrong with you. So.
Well, you're on louder with Crowder. Jared, let's go to.
And now, live from Transylvania, it's time to play
Spot the Tranny.
We have high production values here. El Super. Jared, let's get the game started.
We are going. Okay, ready for number 1. This is for you, Steven.
This is for me. Okay.
I'm going to give you 3 seconds here.
Okay.
Tell me, tranny or not a tranny? Here we go.
Oh, okay. I am going to say I'm not a tranny with that. I'm going to say that's a woman. Do we ask
You
Super
think
too, or
so?
is it just me?
It's just you. It's just
Okay,
you.
it's
What do you
just
think?
me.
What do you think?
I think that's a woman.
It's a tranny.
Okay.
Ooh, wow, I would have gone with that too.
That's the first time ever, which
That's
we'll
the
wipe
first.
from the record.
That's first.
All right.
All right, and here we go for Super. This one's for you. This one's for you. All right. There you go. Look at that one there.
That's rough. That's rough. I think that's actually Steven Crowder. So I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with a guy. That's a guy.
This is hate speech.
We try and avoid that on
You
this
try to
program.
avoid that. You
Oh,
can't judge
I
by.
apologize.
It's not fair. That's
Oh,
not
that's
fair if you
rough.
judge by.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
I hope I made myself clear,
That-
Super Mexican.
That
get
was
that a
fair.
lot. Jeez.
That was
Wow.
fair.
Asshole.
Okay. We have one more for
All
me.
right, Steven. This two
more.
for you.
Okay, go,
here we
let's
go. Boom. What is it? What is it? What is
That
it?
is that's a transsexual.
You think so?
Yes.
You think so?
Let's get the answer.
It's a tranny.
You're right.
Ooh,
You got it.
good call.
You got it. You got it. Okay. Super. Back to you. Ready?
Wow, These are rougher than
These
I
are
thought.
rough.
They're not easy.
Not easy.
They're-
All right,
yeah.
here you go.
Because I've seen some in my day. Oh.
Be honest now. Nothing. Let's not revert to the Mexican accent. We need you to be honest because we have to tally up the scores.
I'm very scared right now. Steve. Yeah, I'm going to go with Tranny on that one.
You're going to get sued.
Oh, jeez.
And we're going to.
You gotta take all my
Super.
tacos. Okay, all right, fine.
Super.
This is not good.
You're not playing nicely on the program.
This is not good. It's not good.
All right.
All right, Steven, last one for you. Ready?
Okay.
You ready for it?
What's
You
the score?
Ready?
Super's up
Ready?
by 1.
We're up by 1.
But
Ready?
he's got a lawsuit, so
Yeah,
okay.
so, boom. What do you think? What do you think?
Oh, come on. No.
What do you think?
No, that's a woman. That's got to be a woman. Or might be.
It's a tranny.
What?
Tranny! No
What?
joke! Tranny model!
My hot
Not
streak
even
has come
joking.
to an end.
Is your wiener confused?
I don't.
Is it thoroughly confused?
My whole body's confused.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
All right,
Okay,
let's
last
go.
one.
Oh, come on, don't
Last
give me.
one,
You're
last
giving
one,
all the
last
easy
one,
ones to
last one.
Super. I would
No,
argue.
No.
All right,
Here,
Super.
last one, Super. Ready? Here we go. Boom.
That's a tough one.
Who's your girlfriend? Woof.
It's.
What do you think? What do you think?
Unfortunately, I think I dated that thing.
Is this more acceptable in Mexico/California?
I know, maybe in California. I don't know about Mexico. No, I'm gonna go with not a guy. So the.
I'm going to call the ACLU.
You have, gosh, Super Trev. Okay, Super Trev.
It's not-
No, it's El Super.
That's not
Yeah,
good.
not
That's
Super
good.
Tranny.
Super Mexican. Okay, what's the score? So Super Mexican
He
wins.
wins. He wins. I'm surprised. I mean, he's sued out of his mind. I mean, he's got nothing left.
Here's the thing, Super. If you won,
But he took it.
you have to come back to defend your title. So I don't know if you want this kind of heat.
I say bring it. That's
Okay.
nice. Yeah.
I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole thing.
He wants it.
All right, that was
Live from Transylvania, this has been
Spotting the trannies.
to
Twitter
close it out
comments
officially.
are, if you're comfortable with this game, you are not gay, Jared. Also, they said that our mic was hot during the last break, and I should fire you. Not gay,
look
Jared.
into that.
Sorry, but Super Mexican seemed relatively comfortable with it. He didn't seem too rattled.
Well, if you're gonna fire him, apparently I'm gonna get sued into oblivion. So I might be looking for a job. Maybe I can take that guy's job.
Well, I don't know if you want that job because it comes with, it already comes with the baggage of several lawsuits with Not Gay Jared.
Oh, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, namely from me.
This is 100% accurate.
Yeah, he's my indentured
Yeah,
server.
that's no bueno at all.
So how do you see this happen? We're going to talk with Ed Morrissey. How do you see this happening? Do you think Trump gets the nomination? Do you think it goes to a contested convention?
You know what? The only way he doesn't get the contested, the only way he doesn't get the nomination, and we go to a contested convention, I think, is if the GOP holds the line, and they never hold the line, and they've already given signs that they're a little spineless on this. If they actually cared about the principles of conservatism, I think they would have gone after him a little earlier and a little quicker, and they didn't. So I could see them caving, even before the convention. The only way to save us is if Ted Cruz gets a surge, and we're not seeing that in the polls yet. I'm hoping for it. I'm praying for it. I'm praying to all my Aztec gods, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen.
I don't think prayers are very relevant to them without human sacrifice. That's why.
Okay, all right.
That's why your people haven't done super well.
It's in the fine print.
Yes.
I got to read the fine print, man.
I saw Apocalypto. I know what I'm talking about.
What a great movie.
Really?
I love that movie.
Must be
Never
cultural
ended.
thing. All right, Super Mexican. Thank you so much for being a good sport, and you have to come back to defend your title.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going down.
Thank you. That is Super Mexican. You can read his stuff at therightscoop.com. Highly recommend it. Lighter with Crowder. Stay tuned. And now for Donald Trump Plays Family Board Games, brought to you by Milton Bradley and Al Jazeera. Okay, right here, I better get Jingo! No, okay.
Frankly, no, Jacob. Look at this piece I have. Okay, it's not even symmetrical. Okay, what is this? What is a piece like this? It's not even a symmetrical piece for Jenga. Okay, of course you're changing the rules. You're changing the pieces after we started the game. Okay, I want to look back at this and find out which one of you is putting in the asymmetrical. I am gonna do such brutal things to whoever is putting asymmetrical pieces in Jenga. Okay, I'm gonna do such. You're never gonna believe it. Whoever. Stay tuned for more. Donald Trump Plays Family Board Games. Brought to you by Milton Bradley and Al Jazeera.
Greetings, humans. This is another Hopper takeover. Your package seems to have been lost in the mail, as I still do not have all the cheeses. But Hopper is willing to overlook this mistake and forgive, provided they are sent promptly to Hopper's P.O. Box by the next commercial break. I come in peace, but only if I has all the cheeses. Otherwise, I will be forced to roll on the couch, the downstairs couch where I am not allowed to go, and I usually do not go. But you will force my hand in this situation. I don't want to do it. All you have to do is send all the cheeses. Follow my instructions, and no couches will get dirty.
All right, I am glad to. We'll try the phone calls one more time. We were taking your calls this week. It's atypical. We don't do it a whole lot, but NotGayJared has. Oh, we've had this caller before. Donnie from Chicago, correct?
Yes. Yeah, Donnie, you there?
Good, Donnie. Good, thank you. How are you, sir? Oh, okay, you're being far too kind. So, all right, what can we do you for today?
Well, here's the deal. You know, we got all this nonsense going on about it. Everybody's already prophesying about what's going to happen at the GOP convention. I mean, it's like already in the books. But here's the thing. I got to tell you. I know you're a listening type of guy. But, you know, if I were to go out and say, you know, I want a new car. I would find one that I really, really like. It's flashy. It looks good. And people want it, okay? It's just a thought for a minute, because I'm going to try to put all this together. Living in Chicago doesn't help, because I see the disaster of what the Democrats have done to a city. It's in the hole. It's like Detroit. It's tanking. You got gun laws that make absolutely no sense.
Chicago's been Democrats, is it since 31, I think, Mayor?
My father used to say, hey, every city needs a good corrupt politician like Mayor Daley. The problem is he was right back then. At least Mayor Daley could say, hey, shut up, we're doing it this way. But now everybody's corrupt. So, you know, you look at the Dems, everybody knows what it's done to people. But here's the thing. I can't get it through my head that the GOP has given us anybody to beat the nonsense of Hillary or even Bernie. Look at the young generation. They love this guy.
I know.
They don't even... They love the guy because he speaks about stuff. Listen, I'm around millennials all the time, and I would not put down a hardworking millennial, a guy with a 4.0 who's doing well in college and all this kind of stuff. But the fact that they believe that there's a savior out there that's going to change all this is a disaster.
Well, I agree with you.
I'm saying that,
and don't you see that kind of happening right now with the GOP? That's what the same Messiah complex.
Well, it is. It is, except this. Here's the only thing.
Okay.
The GOP has never, ever given the idea that, listen, we'll just give you everything you want. We never did that. The Democrats have lived off of, hey, you know, let's give everybody free everything. Okay, they've lived off of that. Look what it's done to Detroit, to Chicago, everything.
Baltimore, sure.
But everything. It's a disaster. But the working with the language, you know, people don't understand me. I'm from Chicago. I talk with these and them and those. So I have to understand every once in a while when I want to have an intellectual conversation, I might have to change my language. What's happened is the GOP has not figured out yet how to talk the language of this generation. And so that's why I say, you know, how are we going to combat this? And all I'm saying is every time I hear Cruz talk, I just want to kill myself. Every time I hear Kasich talk, I'm like, are you kidding me? You've got great points, but the people that you're looking to connect with, they're not connecting, guys. They're
so you
not
think
connecting.
Trump is the better communicator of them?
Well, now, here's what I'm saying.
Because he's of everyone, he's dead last of anyone with the millennials.
But here's what's happened. For the GOP, they're the ones that have said, give us a new car. We want a new flashy car. We want
something with power, with pizzazz, with zesto. That was my point.
Right.
Is all these old cars are sitting in the driveway, and the GOP, instead of going, look, we can't give these people these cars, why didn't they build somebody from within over the last 4 freaking years?
Well,
why didn't they pick a guy with sense that can communicate? And I can't listen to Cruz. I can't listen to Kasich. I can't do it.
Well, okay.
It drives me nuts.
Donnie from Chicago, thank you for calling in. We appreciate it, and I think it's a valid question. I think some would argue that was Cruz. Listen, as someone who voted for Cruz in Texas, there's a reason that Marco Rubio lost Florida big and Ted Cruz won Texas big. Mm-hmm. 2 people, same job, came up the same way, anti-establishment Tea Party. One's voting constituency felt betrayed. And one said, okay, we got what we asked for. Not everyone necessarily likes it, but that is a study in contrast.
Yep.
I do agree. Listen, I mean, if people talk about this all the time, you know, I'm talking like Donnie from Chicago. Talks like Dennis Farina.
It sticks with you.
What people talk about this a lot. People, you know, you see all these conservative provocateurs or these authors right now who are kind of in their death throes, saying, oh, you know, Mexicans, blacks, they talk about these voters. You know, we need white people. There are people out there right now saying it's about white people. We'll never win blacks. We'll never win Mexicans. That's why Democrats want them. We need white people. You are looking at it the wrong way, and it's a Democrat way of thinking. If Republicans just minimize their losses in people under 35 to low double digits, meaning if they lost it, I don't know, 60-40, as opposed to the giant margins by which they're losing them now, they never lose another election. It's a much bigger voting base, under 35. You could even extend that number to under 40, but certainly 35 and under. I'm not just talking 25 and under, 35 and under, okay? If you could change that voting base by 10 points, you could still lose it by a big margin, just not as mammoth. Republicans would never lose another election. And that'd be in perpetuity, because you'd be building something.
Mm-hmm.
It's a future vote. You're not just talking about who's black today, who's white today, who's Mexican today. Okay, let's look at the demographic numbers. Republicans have had a very, very serious problem there. And that's reality. And no one wants to talk about it. Something else, we talk about communication. Okay, let's talk about communication. We'll have
Ed Morrissey.
Ed Morrissey. Well, do we have more calls after?
We have one more call after this. I think we're going to take one more caller, 2 more callers.
Okay, one more call.
Then Ed Morrissey.
Why are you fidgeting around there? Is something going on with the live stream?
No, we're fine.
Okay, we're fine. Trump, this thing right now is the New York values thing. People are getting mad at Ted Cruz.
I got an email about that today. That was a subject from a Trump email because I had signed up for.
Ted Cruz hates New York values.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. This is just such populist pandering bullcrap, right? Any conservative, any moderate, any non-far leftist who lives in New York would hear that and go, yeah. Unless you're one of those dummies who thinks that because you're New York, you have to like the Rangers, or you're from Philadelphia, you have to like the Phillies. If you're one of those stupid people who ties your identity in some city, there's no helping you. But you know what? Any conservative who lives in New York City goes, you know what? Yeah, I am a Republican, but I'm in a city where I legally am not capable of owning a gun to protect my family and my apartment. Also, landlords are being jailed if they don't allow trannies to use whatever bathroom they want. Sorry, being fined. Also, they wanted to ban big gulps. You know what? My city's values suck. Put that on a grand scale. Nationalism. Sometimes it sucks. I was born in Detroit. My dad was born and raised in Detroit. I left when I was younger. Detroit values suck. Anyone with common sense would look to Manhattan, would look to de Blasio, would look to Bloomberg and say,
Yeah, those values suck. Why should that change? I don't understand. I've never, tweet me at @SCrowder. I don't understand why this should change. Well, I live in Texas, or I live in Utah, and I vote Republican. Oh, really? What does that mean? Well, it means I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in federalism and constitutional limitations to the federal government, and then that power should be delegated to the states. Okay. Hey, yeah, I'm from New York, and I vote Republican. Well, what does that mean? It means I believe in strict gun control. I'm against free speech, higher taxes, and socialized programs, and banning big gulps. How does that change based on your geographical location? Unless you are, in the most technical matter of speaking, a dumbass. Unless you are an absolute moron, someone telling you, if you think you're a Republican, that your city's far, far, far left policies do not represent the mainstream values of Republican voters, it should be a non-issue. It's only an issue for a stupid person who goes, New York values, oh crap, I'm from there! I'm from there! He insulted the place I'm from! Oh, I'm not voting for that guy. Oh, so you like the gun control? You like the fact that the far left policies? You like the stringent government? You like the high taxes? No. So what's the problem? I'm from there. I don't like how this feels. I'm uncomfortable. I don't understand it. Is it just me, NotGayJared?
No, you know, I get it to a certain extent because that's kind of how Cleveland is. I think it's these Northeast cities, I think more than most, kind of had that sort of like, we've been through hell and back at our own doing, and we kind of band together, kind of vibe. You know, it's kind of a thing. Chicago,
you just
Detroit,
did it, because Cleveland's not.
Cleveland,
back.
Yeah, it's probably not.
They've been there,
and it's only gonna get worse in June and July. You know, Baltimore, New York City, Boston. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the cold winter is just kind of like, it kind of puts you in a groupthink mentality of the city, and you can't, you know, kind of get out of that. You know, the sports, everything kind of plays into it as well, I think, but. I don't know. But that said, if someone were to say, "Hey, Cleveland sucks," I go, "Huh? Yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah, it's pretty sucky."
You're not happy with the political representation, for sure, of Cleveland?
No.
I'm certainly not with Detroit.
No.
We've gotten to kerfuffles with people over there.
That said, let's just remember, Cleveland is not to be mentioned in the same sentence as Detroit.
Cleveland looks at Detroit, and they...
You are everything that's gone wrong in this world.
Yes.
You are self-consumed, no talent, mediocre piece of shit.
That's what Cleveland says to Detroit. Cleveland looks at Detroit and says...
Miserable, presumptuous, no talent.
Yes.
Cleveland looks to Detroit and says...
I knew the Grateful Dead from 1966. Who the are you?
It's the one, we always get complaints about that, but if you have not seen that video, it is the best thing the internet has ever produced. But I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to be mentioned in the same sentence as Detroit. I'm from Detroit. There's a perfect example. I can say, yeah, Detroit is way worse than Cleveland.
It's so cold in the D.
Yeah. And if Donald Trump said that, I wouldn't get mad at him. I'd say, well, he got something right. We'll be back. More calls after this. Hey, if you're listening to or watching this podcast, there's a strong chance that you are not yet following me on Twitter at @SCrowder, where I'm tweeting all day long. I'm ticking off the social justice warriors. You should see the amount of hate I get on there. Far, far, far worse than any fat Sports Illustrated model or Black Lives Matter charlatan. So listen, it's free, you get to be entertained, and you can chime in. Also, if you're following me on Twitter, you can send me your tweets, and maybe you'll be lucky enough, and I mean lucky enough because I have a lot of followers, okay, that they call me the follower machine, to have your tweet to me or NotGayJared included in our rockinest tweet of the week. So follow me on Twitter at @SCrowder. If not, I don't want to say I have sights on your mother, but... Oh, she's dead? You're just saying that because I made a mom joke. No, she's really dead? Well, you kind of walked into it. And now for Donald Trump Plays Family Board Games, brought to you by Milton Bradley and Al Jazeera. Yahtzee! Bullshit. Okay? Bullshit. Stay tuned for more Donald Trump Plays Family Board Games, brought to you by Milton Bradley and Al Jazeera.
All right, glad to be back. And over the most part, we've had a good time here with the calls today. And
Good show.
Let's go to our line. NotGayJared, we have somebody calling in.
Yeah, we have Jack from Samson.
Jack from Samson, you are on line 1, getting louder with Crowder.
Hello, Steven. How you doing? Hey, I
right.
wanted to ask why you like putting so many dicks in your mouth.
Okay,
all
Jared,
day
Jared,
long.
man,
So much
what?
in
This
your
is your
ear,
job
in
to
your
screen
mouth, in
this.
your eye.
I tried to cut it
Yeah,
out
I don't
fast
think we're going
enough.
to do a whole lot more. You know, we had Donnie from Chicago. All right, you know, by the way, one thing for people, when you talk about sort of, to put in some context here, my uncle and my brother have gone and taped a lot in India. I just want to bring this up real quick. And they've worked with some missionaries. Just last night, they burned down 20 churches, more than 200 churches in the Olsabang province. And I have right here, they want to kill 200 missionaries within the next 24 hours. Yes, Islam. So Christians are hiding in villages. This is happening in India right now. So that's what when people say, well, how do you say this many more people are killed by Islamic terrorism than Timothy McVeigh? Well, they want to put out 200 just in this province of India in one night for being Christian. This stuff happens all the time across the world. So all the time, anytime you can snap your fingers, someone's being killed in the name of Islam somewhere in the world. Not by a Muslim. That's the sound of somebody being killed in the name of Islam. With that amount of frequency. Every single day. Keep that in mind the next time they're hunting for some kind of a white Anglo-Saxon Ted Cruz supporting terrorist. I wanted to talk about something. We were talking about pot with Julie Borowski. I don't know. You know, hopefully we'll do a web extended version with her.
Yep.
I think it's an entirely reasonable and tenable position. Listen, states should have the right to legalize it if they want to. I just don't like it being based on a lie. But I also find it funny why they've made such a pivotal issue of weed. Really a non-beneficial drug. If you want to get high, fine. That's fine. But let's not say it's medicine or pharmaceutical companies. They can make plenty of money. They have several patents on chemical compounds from marijuana. The only one that works is that the one that they have for nausea and sickness associated with chemo. But no one's in the streets picketing for that drug, right? It's not fun because you're not getting high. They're picketing in the streets because they want to get blitzed. I understand it. I just want people to be honest about it. I don't understand. The more compelling conversation to me would be something like steroids. And the reason I was thinking about it, I was Julie.
If you're arguing personal freedoms, you're talking about?
They're talking about personal freedoms, but I want to take it extended.
Yep.
Because these are legal drugs. And they are drugs that are wildly beneficial, right? A good steroids, right now they give to, I know people go, are you sure steroids? No. But they're wildly beneficial to AIDS patients, burn victims, right? That they're prescribed. They were invented, they're prescribed. And there was a big scare that happened after the Russian and East Germans with the Olympics, right? The steroid wars. And so now they're vilified. But these are legal drugs that have gone through the scientific process and are some of the most effective drugs known to man. And a lot of the time, doctors would probably prescribe these to people, and they're afraid because of the DEA. I don't understand why libertarians don't focus on that more. That's where you can make some headway. The reason I was thinking about it was because we talked about drugs with her. I was just reading today, I follow mixed martial arts. There's a fighter named Lyoto Machida who just got fined for testing for a PED. PED is a performance-enhancing drug. Now, Chael Sonnen says every single drug is a performance-enhancing drug. If your doctor is giving you a drug that is not performance-enhancing, that's malpractice. He cannot give you
this makes sense.
A performance-hindering drug. The drug that was banned, and this is a private organization, USADA, their guidelines are WADA, I don't want to get wonky for you, was DHEA. That's something you can, probably many of you watching might even be taking it, or it might be in one of your supplements and you don't even know. Certainly if you have older parents or grandparents, it's most likely that some of them are, you can walk right now to Rite Aid, to CVS, and take that. And it's banned in sport.
And this guy's name is going to be dragged. And by the way, he didn't even test positive. He disclosed it. He was listing his supplements, whatever, creatine, this, multivitamin, DHEA. And they said, oh, well, that's banned. So you're going to be suspended. And I'm sitting there thinking about this. This is an issue that, again, we've dealt with in the media because of liars like Lance Armstrong. I understand it because of people who abuse it. But you were talking about athletes, and I've given this a lot of thought, and I've gone back and forth on it. You were talking about athletes who are putting their body under stress. The lifespan for NFL players is not good. For people who are in contact sports, it's not good. We talk about concussions. It's really bad, right? Cutting weight is very difficult in these combat sports. We know the long-term health ramifications, and we know that steroids would help. We know that they would help these athletes. We want them to perform to these best. And by the way, if you think that most athletes aren't on them, you're delusional. Okay, most of these, there's a significant portion of them are. Ask any professional athletes, once they're retired, they go, oh yeah, it's absolutely rampant. Why shouldn't they have the right to take those drugs? You can tweet me at S. Crowder. I really think it's a hard case to make that they shouldn't be taking it under a doctor's supervision. Because it's a witch hunt and new drugs are developed. Shouldn't athletes be allowed? You can give them Percocet. The addictive drugs, the painkillers, are rampant with people in professional sports. Depression, rampant. You can give them Zoloft. You can give them all of these antidepressants. You can toss Oxy at them, which we know is bad. It doesn't help you. Or you can give them something that is possibly the most effective drug known to man. Pick a list from whatever these steroids are. Keep it monitored within healthy levels from a doctor, and it will enhance this person's performance, who their sole job is physically performing for you. And we tell them, no, here's a bottle of Percocet. You can't take what would actually help you heal. And so I was just sitting there, I was watching this going, I was talking with my dad about it, like, a guy getting tested for something, that you take. By the way, it's not even that effective, DHEA. It's really mixed results. Creatine is more effective. Creatine is a very effective supplement. That's one that I recommend to a lot of people. If you're out there, you don't know what it is.
Yeah,
it's
cheap
very
and
effective.
available.
But I don't know. I want you to tweet me at S. Crowder. I'm just curious as to why the line has been drawn at pot, something that's not proven. Certainly not as time-tested as steroids, which can be prescribed by a doctor. And many doctors will tell you, you know what, we prescribe these specific kinds for these kinds of injuries, but we can't. And that's where I get more libertarian. Again, I've never touched these drugs. I've never smoked pot. But I think if a doctor wants to prescribe them, they should. I think doctors should prescribe them. Have the right to. If it works. But we need to be honest about whether it works. And we'll be back. Ed Morrissey, right?
Ed Morrissey.
Ed Morrissey after the break. Stay tuned.
Greetings, humans. This is the final Hopper takeover. I have cleaned my nether regions 4 times since the last commercial break, but still have yet to see any cheeses. I would like to give humans the benefit of the doubt, and if you believe that you should not send cheeses because Hopper does not have opposable thumbs and would not be able to open the cheeses, I can assure you I have taken the proper precautions, and you can send them at your earliest convenience. And lastly, NotGayJared escaped!
Down. How dare you? I got up to dance because I was tweeting out that Ed Morrissey was going to be in the program, and you ruined the whole thing. Tune it out now.
It's kind of my thing. It's my thing. It's my thing. I ruined it all.
Tune it out now. Okay. Let's just pretend like that didn't happen. Next guest, fine guest. He hasn't been on in a while, but longtime friend personally, and he was on the show when the first show started, long before syndication, and then several markets complained and pulled us, and then more syndication, and then of course more pulling, and then more syndication. Ed Morrissey, editor-in-chief at hotair.com. What's the official term, Ed?
Senior editor at hotair.com.
Okay, senior editor. These terms are so hard to keep straight.
I know, it's a nomenclature that kills you, Stephen. What can I say?
Look at this beard. You warned me about it. How long has this been going on?
About a month, since CPAC.
Okay. Well, now, because I saw you on Morning Joe, and I didn't want to... How long has that been happening? Because if it had been happening for a year or something and I had screwed up. So what was the decision?
Well, okay, so this is kind of a funny story. What happened was right before CPAC, I got a little rash on my lip right up here. And I thought initially, well, I'll just shave around it, right? Well, that would have left me with a mustache, right in there. And I thought that was a bad look at a conservative political action conference. So I thought, no, I got to let the whole mustache grow. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to let the whole mustache grow, I need something underneath it. Because, with the shaved head and just the mustache, I don't think that look would have worked.
No,
I'm
you
not
look
sure
like
if
a
this look
pedophile.
works. Yeah, pretty much. So I don't know if this works.
It does. It does work.
Okay.
You have a decent beard. My question is, and then we have to get, because we only have one segment here. My question is this: how do you, listen? I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag with the follicular situation. How do you decide where to start the beard when there's not? Usually you just continue the sideburns. What's that decision process like?
That decision process was like, what is it that I think I can actually sustain? And I decided that this was it. And I thought if it went all the way up to the top of the ears, it would, I don't know, look weird. Not that this doesn't, but for some reason, this is the look that I kind of
No, it works. It works. But, because you don't want to grow it and then you go full Jesse Ventura with the skullet, and that just doesn't work for anybody.
No, that's bad. That's a bad look, too.
Okay, so here we are. You have the new book. Title of your new book, it's Going Red, right?
Going Red.
Okay. And you talk about you get very strategic in this, talking about what votes determine the Republican election. Real quick, just hit us with it, because I know you've been doing the press tour, and then I want to get into something current to tie it into. But Going Red, what's the premise?
The premise is that in order to win the swing states, the states that Republicans used to win before 2008, Republicans need to get back on the ground and discover who these voters are. The reason why Republicans have, one of the big reasons why Republicans have lost in 2008 and 2012 is because they were relying on national messaging. They had no idea who the voters were in these in these swing states, in these swing counties, 7 swing counties and 7 swing states. And the voters have changed. Their concerns are different in each of these communities. You can't rely on just a national message and you're winning a national election anymore. You really have to run 435 congressional campaigns for president. And it's most critical in states where voters are on the fence as to which direction they're going to go. So that's what Going Red is about.
Okay.
It tells the stories of these 7 counties, these 7 communities, so that people get a chance to know these people better. They're fine people, terrific people. I got a chance to spend 5 months touring and talking with them.
No, I don't like them. I think they're all terrible people, and
I know.
don't endorse your comment. Okay, but let me ask you this. Can this be done, Ed, without pandering? With still being consistent?
Absolutely. No, see, this is the thing. If you are talking with the people in these communities, you're finding out what it is that their concerns are in those communities, and then you take the conservative agenda and show how it applies to these issues, to these problems.
Okay.
Rather than just saying liberty, free markets, etc., you go into these different communities and say, hey, you've got a problem with the EPA and the Metropolitan Water District, and it's going to cost you hundreds of dollars a year for the next 20 years out of your pocket because the EPA won't reconsider a plan for abatement. This is the reason why over-regulation is bad. Not just saying over-regulation is bad. You have to tie it to people's lives, and you have to come up with a positive agenda that's going to improve their lives.
Like Kasich, running a positive campaign. Let me ask you, point blank, who do you... No one, I don't know. Maybe some people like him. When occasionally there's a fan who pops up with a yard sign. Which candidate do you think is most capable of doing that?
Well, look, I mean, I think that the candidates all have some qualities that lend themselves to this. I think that one of the strong messages that I got from talking with people is that they're tired of ideological wars. They want somebody who's going to get things accomplished that are actually going to make a positive difference in their lives. Mm-hmm. So that kind of leans against Ted Cruz. But on the other hand, Ted Cruz is really good at getting on the ground and talking with people and in presenting a conservative agenda in ways that are specific to different communities. So he's good at that. Trump is good at understanding that people are frustrated, and he's the hyper competent super executive who can get things done, who is apart from the ideological wars.
Right.
And so that appeals to that's part of the message too.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Sounds like there's a chance. Okay, well, I don't, because we only have one segment. So, okay, I understand where you're coming from with that. And we'll have you back on when we can do a longer segment. We had to spot the tranny with
and thank you so much for having me on tonight. I know that you squeezed me in. Thank you.
No, we didn't squeeze you in. I wanted to have you in, and then it was just the schedule got insane with the callers, and NotGayJared will be fired. I wanted to ask you something, because you've written on politics for a long time. You particularly understand the delegate game, districts. You understand that better than most. What is the truth here? Have the rules changed against Donald Trump? Have they been the same? No. I'm under the impression, am I wrong, they were out there in August, and not a one has changed since August.
Certainly not since August, and most of the delegate allocation rules are really traditional. Colorado changed up a little bit over a year ago, but only just to say that we're not going to have bound delegates. The delegate selection process is the same as it's always been. This is one of those sausage-making moments in American politics. Most of the time, conventions are over before they even start. They're just there to celebrate the nomination of the person who we've known for months is going to be the nominee. This is the 1 year in a generation, the one cycle in a generation where that's not the case. And so now all of a sudden, everybody has to catch up with these rules. And a lot of people are being taken by surprise by these rules, but they're really the same rules that have been around for decades in terms of delegate allocation, in terms of wooing delegates. This is the way conventions have always been done when there isn't a clear nominee by the time the convention rolls around.
Exactly. And that is designed to ensure that somebody who cannot get a majority of even the Republican vote doesn't go to a general, correct?
Right. I mean, that's the overall purpose of it. Yeah, absolutely. Right. You have to demonstrate some competence. You have to demonstrate a broad reach within the party that's going to nominate you. Absolutely.
Well, that's why I talk about the two-party system. I say the two-party system is to avoid a national version of what's happening with these primaries, where someone who can't get above that 35% threshold can take the country hostage. And you've seen that in other countries with 30 or 40 parties. And I come from Canada with a parliamentary system, so I go, listen, two-party system isn't great, but it's better than most alternatives, and it's really easy to say, two-party, man, corporate influence. But look at this nomination process in a primary. Do we really want this kind of a quagmire in a general?
The difference between this system and a parliamentary system is that we iron out the factional issues prior to the general election within the parties. In a parliamentary system, not so much Canada, because there's really only 3 parties in Canada. But
there's Liberal, Conservative, NDP, and then in Quebec, Bloc Québécois.
Bloc Québécois. So 4 parties. BQ is more of a Quebec only
But they still run nationally. It's just so silly.
But you take a look at Israel, and there's 12, 13 different parties. In a two-party system, those parties would kind of be divvied up, and they vie for leadership within the party before the general election. That's our two-party system. Right. So all we're doing is we're replacing the stuff that would happen in a parliament in the United States for 4 years with this year-long process of ironing it out when we get to the convention. It's really it's the same type of function. We just put it ahead of the schedule more or less than parliamentary systems.
And I can understand people, we've talked about this. I think it was Hillary Clinton won Texas. Obama got more delegates. I could be swapping them. And then Mitt Romney won some states, but Ron Paul got more delegates. This is not new. Like you said, it's coming down to the wire. So for the first time, people are educating themselves about it. And I understand why some people are angry. I get it, that with the Lindsey Grahams and Mitch McConnells, I understand that. I understand this sentiment. But the point is, something is not being stolen from someone if you can't get over 35% or 37% of the Republican vote. We're not. People are talking about this is posting address, Tea Party rioting in the streets. No, this is a party. It's not the government. And this is one guy who doesn't even have 40% of the vote within 1/2 of the country's voting electorate. I just hope people keep it in perspective before they go to Cleveland and start banging down hotel room doors.
Well, I think so. I actually think that there's going to be a gap of about 6 weeks between the final primaries and the convention. And I think what you're going to find is people are going to put those 5 or 6 weeks to pretty good use. There's going to be a lot of wheeling and dealing to try to to try to nail this down prior to the convention. But even if it goes to the convention and you have 7 or 8 or 10 or 15 ballots before you get to a nominee, that's okay. That's what conventions actually are for. They're the backstop for when your primary process doesn't pick a consensus nominee. Right. And that's why you elect delegates to go to a convention so that that can be done. It's representative democracy.
Right.
It's like Congress.
Well,
Let's
follow down the alternative, right? Obviously, Trump doesn't want one vote, representation. He doesn't want that because he's the one benefiting the most from the delegate system in winner-take-all states, right? There were no complaints with Florida, and he's banking on New York. A far higher percentage of delegates than his actual percent of the vote. So people need to understand that. And my thing is I've always tried to be consistent. Consistency is what bothers me. But let's go down the logic trail the other way. Okay, just vote and that person wins. Is it a good thing for someone who can't get over that 36% threshold to get the Republican Party? Is that productive? That's the only sort of... They would have to make that a tenable position for people who are yelling foul play right now. Or am I incorrect?
No, you're right about this. And bear in mind that the primary schedule was designed this time around to prevent that type of thing from happening as well. Right. The idea was to wrap up a nominee early because remember, the primary kind of stretched out in the 2012 cycle too, and Mitt Romney ended up taking a lot of damage, even though it was clear that he was going to be more or less the consensus nominee. He didn't get it wrapped up until later in the primary, and in the meantime, he was taking pot shots from fellow Republicans, and then he had to spend all of his primary cash. He had no cash left, and then the convention was in the first week of September, so he had no way to answer these attack ads that were coming from the Obama campaign.
Why don't you just go to all of his secret Mormon gold? We know they have those hoards laying around. He doesn't pay any taxes. Ed, you're slipping on the fact game here. You need to...
What can I say? I forgot about the Mormon gold.
You forgot about the Mormon gold. Oh,
I forgot about that. Oh my gosh, how could I forget about that?
That's what's really destroying the party is the Mormon gold. That's the real problem.
It. Well, no, but you're right. I mean, so they front-loaded the primaries this time, so they didn't have to go through that. But the problem was that they had a number of candidates who had viability. And so what you've got is this 4 or 5, 6 candidates that were vying for real votes in the first part of that front-loaded primary. And so now what you've got is the extent, what's left over, and it's going to stretch all the way to the convention now because they did their...
Well, that was going to be my final question. We have to hit a hard break. You think we're going to a contested convention?
I think it's pretty likely at this point. I mean, I think Trump could still get to 1237, but I think we're going to go to a second ballot or a third ballot in Cleveland. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of expecting to see.
Going red. He spells it properly. Ed Morrissey, we'll get you back on, and I don't know, we'll play one of the games with you. Maybe you and SooperMexican. Ed, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
We have to go, sir. Love the beard. Louder with Crowder. Stay tuned. We're going to wrap this all up in a nice bow because we can't wrap it up in a beard. That's physically impossible. Stay tuned. And now for Donald Trump Plays Family Board Games, brought to you by Milton Bradley and Al Jazeera.
Okay, right foot on red.
Okay, right foot.
Ow! No!
Okay, you know what? This game is rigged. And don't think I don't know about your little secret, okay? That you are playing a game. You've stacked the deck. Okay, it's rigged. You're a professional gymnast. Don't think I didn't do my research. I have people, okay, who do the best research. The best.
I did tumbling class when I was 5.
She did tumbling class when she was 5. And you didn't disclose it. Huh? You didn't disclose it in any papers, any of your forms. You didn't disclose it. And you knew, okay? Lying Michelle. Okay, that's your lying Michelle.
Lying. We were just playing Twister.
You're not lying. Oh, she's not lying. Okay, look at this. Look at this. Look at the flexibility here, huh? What are you, Miss Stretch Armstrong? Huh? You Stretch Armstrong going to the ladies' room? Huh? This whole game's rigged. Stay tuned for more Donald Trump Plays Family Board Games, brought to you by Milton Bradley and Al Jazeera. what you put in this drink.
That drink, only the special
It's
stuff.
ice. Hold on 1 second. Oh my lord, that was cold. I have an
ice will do
insulated
that.
tumbler, and it seems to have gotten colder, and now my mouth hurts.
You're welcome.
So that was Ed Morrissey. You had Ed Morrissey. Going Red is his book. I highly recommend it. I know, listen, we go from playing Spot the Tranny to thoughtful political discussion, but Ed Morrissey knows that pretty well. And he's a kind man. He's a nice man. Usually we don't present other stories in the final segment, but I thought this was pretty important. We just wrote about it tonight at louderwithcrowder.com. By the way, the BuzzFeed segment that NotGayJared, for which you will be fired, we couldn't get working, that'll be up on the website probably tomorrow. BuzzFeed released a wildly racist video stereotyping black people, and we're going to just answer their 27 questions that they thought were cute and show you why it's pure dumbassery. Here's the other story. Bill Nye video, we have it up at the website, thinks, and he made the statement, that all, not global warming, climate change skeptics should be imprisoned. I'm not going to play this right now. You can go on the website. His reason, and he said, for me as a taxpayer and a voter, the introduction of this extreme doubt about climate change is affecting my quality of life as a public citizen. I'm glad he said public citizen and not scientist. At least he dropped that moniker. So, this is what we call the everything goes under the general welfare clause, right? 5 for 15. Well, where's that in the Constitution? General welfare clause. I want free health care. Well, how is that constituted? General welfare clause. I want free food. Where does that go? General welfare clause. I want to use any bathroom. General welfare clause. I want to make sure that businesses have to serve me no matter what. At any point, they have no right to say, sorry, general welfare clause.
Who's Jennifer Welfare?
Did I say Jennifer?
I knew
General
it.
welfare clause.
General welfare. I'm going to write that down.
That's right. He can be taught.
Sometimes.
And now we go further on down the trail, and you have Bill Nye. I want to jail all people who I want to, as noted non-scientist Bill Nye, jail, that includes 30,000 real scientists who actually signed a petition against climate change, let alone the millions of people who aren't convinced of man-made global warming climate change. Now, soon to be global cooling again after the last few years. He thinks that all of these actual scientists should be jailed. Well, how's that constitutional? General welfare clause. And they toss everything underneath it. They want to jail you for having a different opinion. And scientists. He's not a scientist. He's certainly not an atmospheric scientist. You know who's a scientist? Coach Mark Ripto. Yeah. Degree in geology. A lot of scientists, they like fracking. When you actually get down to science, it is way more split. And this goes back to why? Why jail them? Why not argue about ideas? Well, it's affecting my personal life as a citizen. Ban farts. If you're at that point...
there is a movement I can get on board with.
Well, I can't because Hopper would be hauled out here in cuffs. He'd be the first to go.
That's true. It's true.
But my point is you can't just sandwich everything in there. And the left uses it to silence all voices of opposition. Fight for 15. There was no transparency. No one was notified of where it was. You sign up for the email, it was impossible. Why? Because they don't want the cameras rolling. They don't want reporters to show up who might challenge their beliefs. College campuses. They're going to ban you. We wrote about that on the website this week. They're going to ban you if you offend people, if you trigger people on campus, right? Conservatives are saying, hey, you can say whatever you want. Sure, you want to do the Piss Christ art thing? Go ahead, bring that on campus. You want to do all kinds of anti-Christian, anti-conservative? You want to step on the American flag? Absolutely, go ahead. Conservatives say that, if you're the conservative groups on campus anyway. Leftists say, no, we need them banned, kick them out, segregated spaces. They don't want transparency. They don't want that dialogue. Bill Nye, non-scientist, wants actual scientists jailed. Doesn't want a dialogue. There's a consistent requiring of a lack of transparency on the left that you should find disconcerting. And you should find equally disconcerting any time it happens on the right.
And I'll give this to libertarians. They really do focus on transparency. We were talking about a guy like Justin Amash, who I don't agree with him on everything, justifies every single vote he makes on his website, social media page. That sounds great. Listen, we're not mob rule. We are not total democracy. But in a representative republic, isn't it great to have one who's transparent? Whether you like him or not. This is a trademark of the left. And this is, listen, people will say, well, okay, you know, obviously sometimes we're making arguments on Louder with Crowder and we're drawing parallels. Bernie Sanders' fascism for mediocrity because he wants to socially engineer, right, classes. And capitalism and free enterprise, we talked about this, classes are moving. Bernie Sanders wants to ensure that doesn't happen. That's fascism for mediocrity, okay? We're using that as an analogy. This is actual fascism. How can you argue, how can the left argue that this is not very blatant, literal fascism? Jail people with whom I disagree. And why isn't this front page everywhere? You know, you have people getting mad. They're saying, you know, that Ted Cruz wants to establish a religious oligarchy because he's a Christian. We've had atheists. Mark Ripto is an atheist. Was on the show. He said, no, actually, if you look, he doesn't want to do that at all. He believes in the powers of the state. Just like Rand Paul, deeply Catholic. He does not want to establish a religious oligarchy. What about a guy like Bill Nye? And his views are mainstream leftism, who wants to jail people for disagreeing with sketchy science. By the way, climate change settled science. Gender is fluid. If you say you were born with a penis or vagina, that's hate speech. That should be so alarming to you, to Americans. I hate to do that. I'm not doing a doomsday thing. Read the article. Look at the patterns. We need more dialogue. We need more conversation. We need more battles of ideas. The left has disdain for it. Know that, and know who's looking out for you. That's us, Louder with Crowder. See you next week.